software developers or anybody in here might be interested in getting involved with eFactory?
Yeah, sure thing. So like Jason said, my name is Paige Oxendine. We've got Melissa Hamilton here from our staff team as well, also along with Rachel Anderson, our director in the very back row, who managed to sneak in and not have to come up here. But there are lots of ways for you to engage with us, and we would love to have you back in the building in some capacity. And so we offer private office space for startups. We have a co-working space for people who, maybe you work remote and you want to get out of your house once in a while, or maybe you just need a dedicated space to work on something else. Lots of ongoing classes and trainings related to technology, innovation, and business. And then also, we're happy to be home to most of the community's user groups. And so if you're not already plugged into those user groups, whether that's Springfield Web Devs, .NET, AWS, PowerShell, Women in Tech, Google Developer Group, we really like being able to host those events here in our space, typically in the evenings. So like Jason said, you're going to find all of that information on that forward Springfield Tech calendar, and a lot of those events are going to be held here in the building and typically at no charge. And so please come back in and engage with us. I mentioned on Friday evening as well, if you would like to learn more about the building and all the different things we do offer a tour every Friday at 10 a.m. a free tour. It takes about an hour if you want to come by and hang out with us. And I should mention that we also have free Fridays in our co-working space and in the Purge, which is the area where the coffee and the food have been throughout the weekend. So if you ever just want to get out of whatever your normal workspace is on a Friday and come work from here and enjoy the super fast Wi-Fi and the hot coffee from the Coffee Ethic, we would be thrilled to have you with us on any Friday. And there's materials from us in your bag that have our contact information as well. And so you can get a hold of us if you have any questions. And I'll see if Melissa needs to add anything.
I think you covered it all.
Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
Well, thanks so much for hosting the event. We
Thank
really
you all for
appreciate it. And we also want to recognize Classy Llama as our major sponsor this year. Greg, could you get up and tell us a little bit about Classy Llama and what you do? Well, I hand off a file to Paige or Melissa to print real quick.
Yeah. So Classy Llama, the easy way to explain what we do, like anytime my grandma asks, I basically say we help people sell stuff online. But the way that we do that is we build and maintain e-commerce websites. And we're just down in Chesterfield, right across the street from Black Sheep. And kind of like what Jason was saying earlier, it's so cool to be able to be a part of this and watch how it's grown over the last several years. And so I really appreciate being a part of this and appreciate all of you guys volunteering your time and your skills and everything like that. If you are ever interested in exploring a career at Classy Llama, I'm the dude. Just reach out to me, and I would love to, even if it's not Classy Llama, you're just like, I need to know how to set up a resume or a LinkedIn profile, or I suck at interviewing, reach out to me, because I really enjoy doing that type of stuff. But anyways, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Greg. We really appreciate it. And Greg has been an awesome resource in terms of recruiting knowledge in the Springfield area, especially with the tech folks in all of the different tech circles that we have. So when he invites you to reach out to him, definitely take him up on that, because he's a wealth of knowledge in terms of what flies and what doesn't when a recruiter is looking over hundreds or thousands of applications, and how you might be able to grab somebody's attention and really highlight your skill set. So thanks again to Greg and Classy Llama for being so supportive. And Greg has been very, very, very involved in Hack for Good since the get-go, like making videos and different things like that over the past few years. And so we really appreciate your help getting Hack for Good off the ground and making this happen and making it such an awesome event that it is today. I definitely want to mention the rest of our sponsors. This event certainly wouldn't be possible without them. For those of you who are just dropping in to see what the demos are all about and might not be as familiar with the Hack for Good event, the event is available to our community partners that we adopt at no charge. It's available to all of our attendees at no charge, and it can get expensive to feed 50 or 60 people on Friday night and Saturday 3 times and Sunday a couple times, and provide the awards and all of the other things that go into Hack for Good behind the scenes with print materials and whatever it might be. So huge shout out to all of our sponsors here. If you want to visit any of them individually, go out to the hackforgoodsgf.com website. And you can see the similar grid at the very bottom, and that takes you to each of their individual sites. Most of these sponsors are financial supporters. Some of them partner with us and trade resources, whether it be extra volunteer time helping out with preparing the event, or donating like the drinks, whether it be Mother's Beer or Starbucks coffee from Dairy Farmers of America, or the Coca-Cola products and things like that. So huge thank you to all of our sponsors. And with that, I see that we've probably got a decision from our first round of judging. Would someone be willing to come up and just share the results with us, and then we'll fill in any blanks, so no major pressure if you're haven't been coached on.
Nope, I'm good.
Awesome. All right. So your name and who you're with.
Yeah, my name is Madison Gramling. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at Isabel's House, and we're a nonprofit here in Springfield. We're a crisis nursery. So first, we just want to say thank you to all of the college students that put in the effort over the weekend and didn't sleep if you didn't sleep. We appreciate everything you guys did for us, and we're really excited to work with the winners. So with that, we're going to start out with honorable mention. So that goes to Daniel Green, the professional from Google. And then third place was Ethan Moore. Don't know if he's in here. I don't see him. Okay. Second place was Matt and Austin, public domain. And then first place was Queen City Web Solutions with the Canvas LMS. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And were there any things in particular about the weekend that may have surprised Isabel's House, or about the experience as a whole that maybe was unexpected? Because this is your first time working with Hack for Good. Anything that just might have come across as unexpected for people who are just joining us today as a guest?
Honestly, I was fascinated by this whole process. Didn't even know Hack for Good was a thing, or that things like this happen. So, yeah, I thought it was wonderful.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you and glad to help out.
Blown,
and we look forward to helping get this up and running to where you can start making training more efficient for everybody on house.
Yeah, we
very
appreciate
cool.
that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And for any of the folks who presented Isabel's House projects, be sure that you have current contact information to us. You can either send your details to me, and then I'll forward them on to Tim. But basically, what I was explaining to them when we first started the demos was that we didn't expect such a great turnout for the Isabel's House project, because it was geared to be a smaller college level project, and we knew that looking at past years, we typically have 1 or 2 college teams involved. So we didn't have grandiose plans in terms of award structure or judging structure or anything like that. It was going to be more of a peer feedback at first. So we sort of hashed all of that out last night and came up with a plan to take care of everybody. So the winning team is receiving some co-working time here at the E-Factory, and then the top teams are also receiving some gift cards and things like that. And so we're going to send that out electronically. Since it wasn't part of the plan, they're going to be e-cards, but they should cash just as easily. But thanks again to everybody involved in the Isabel's House project, and we'd love your feedback on what we might be able to do better, since this was a first year college student project, to help make things go smoothly for everybody. But with that, we're going to transition over to the workforce development demos, and we have a lineup. We'll walk through that and call folks up, but if you are on a workforce development team, you can see the list in Slack, and so if you can keep track of where you're at on that list and be ready to come up so that we can keep the transitions quick, that would be really helpful. We are live streaming everything today, so when you plug in, we're capturing everything that you're seeing up on the screen. If you need to use a computer up here, we'll have you use this laptop that's also available so that we can live stream. And with that, our first team, I'm having to cheat here because there's a lot going on this weekend, is, help me out, it's your boy Frank. His name's Frank Giddens. Come on up, Frank. You want to do this transition? I'll just sit to the side and pull up. All right, good luck, Frank.
How's it going, party people? All right.
Frank, before you get started, can you run the timer?
Before I get started, like, don't look up there. I'm not supposed to get started yet.
Hold on just a second. We've got a couple housekeeping things before you get started. I need to go over some details with the judges that just came in, and then they're wanting to do some quick pictures with the college students. Do you want everybody that was involved to go out somewhere? Okay, so we're gonna just take a quick break. If you were involved in an Isabel's house team, please head on out to the atrium and take some pictures, and then you can come on back in between demos. Because Frank, we'll get started while they're taking pictures, and then they can come in. What's that? Oh, nope. All the judges are here. We're going to cover some quick judge info. Can you get those judges up to speed real quick, and then I'll sing and dance. Go for it. All right. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't wear my leader hose today, so it's not going to be quite. Okay. Now, while they're going over the details, I wanted to fill everybody in on how things went overall with the workforce development project. The feedback that we've received in general was that this year's project went a little smoother than last year. Some of the notes that we had were that there was a little bit more predefined structure as far as scope, and then one thing that we did differently was we tried to provide some back-end resources like the API that has the job and event data. Just a group as a whole, while they're talking about that, do you have any initial feedback in terms of things that we might be able to handle differently since we're all here in one room that might make things go a little smoother next year?
So I just, I'm a new guy. I actually just do
more than the one before that or something.
Awesome, welcome.
So I was just a bit confused.
And then we'll figure out.
So like I didn't have the keys or anything. I know from the report, but showed up.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just a little bit disoriented from the group stuff again.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's very helpful feedback. Our intention is, as you've obviously figured out now, if this is the second year of the 4 years that we've allowed individual sign-up, so that's still rough around the edges in terms of coordinating when everybody sort of pulls together. But the way we handled it this year was if you signed up as a team, we went ahead and assigned you to a room in advance, and then anybody that signed up as an individual, we basically intended to have you match make as soon as we went through the project details. So I'll definitely make sure that goes out in emails ahead of time so that when you get here, you're not wondering, do I need to start meeting people now? Or when does that happen? So I can completely understand how that would have been an issue. Oh man, he's walking into my files. All right, there you go. Any other questions or comments or anything from all our workforce teams before we get into demos? If not, I'm going to hand it off to Frank.
All right. Let's do it. Let's see. Duplicate. Duplicate. Nice. Okay. So I built my project as a web project. I didn't finish out the PWA thing, but it would just take a little bit of uncommenting and configuring from the files that I sent. I did a deviation from the workflow that we got to design it more like a quick app, like a tender, where you can see the job, you can see how much it pays, you can see where it is. If you click this, it'll actually take you to a map, Google Maps. Right now I only have it configured to my house because Google Maps was behaving poorly. And then I have badges that I designed for requirements. So in the future, when we can easily get other data like requiring a driver's license or any other sort of requirement, you can look here and get a quick 2-second view of the things you need to have to be able to qualify for having this job. And then you read the things, the details. There's a deny button that you can hit and skip to the next one. If you hit the check mark, it'll save a job and you can look at it later. And the middle button is that external link that will take you straight to that job's website. The idea being to make it as quick as possible for somebody to say yes or no on a job so they can build up a list of 40 or 50 jobs within a few minutes. There's also an events mode where you can, get the mouse out of the way, where you can see all the events and you save the events the same way. All the things are designed to work the same way so that there's minimal learning. I figured just about everybody else I know my age knows how to use Tinder, so if I make it look like Tinder, maybe it'll be easy for him to get a job. And then I can purposely configure the server to where you can have a main server and a redirect server, and all you have to do is change one line of code down here. All you have to do is uncomment that and comment out these test ones, and you have HTTPS server with a HTTP redirect. And then you just dump in your key and your cert that you get from CertBot. So all in all, it would take somebody with tech knowledge maybe 5 to 10 minutes to spin up a professional version of it. I think that's about everything I have.
Can you just real quick show us the map? You said it would map to your house, right?
Yeah. All right.
Party at Frank's house after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not far.
So yeah.
Does the saving and all that, does that work?
If I uncomment a couple lines, it works. I purposely commented them out because I was trying to get filtering to work before time, and I just ran out of time.
So I'm going to reset the timer here, and judges, we have 5 minutes to ask Frank questions before we move on to the next one. So thanks, Frank. Let's see, what questions do we have, judges?
Excellent. Frank, thank you, first of all. But, so do you set up a profile first, like according to what I'm looking for? Because how would it know just what job to pop up? Like it popped up a power equipment mechanic?
You can have it where you set up a profile first. I have it to where it just automatically gets your device location, but I commented down the line, and I can show you where you can pop up a modal, which is basically just like a option box to say your location. Unless I deleted it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I haven't. I didn't even comment it out. I just took out commented out the buttons that you commit. So all you have to do is comment out that one line, and then you'd be able to.
Oh, it's pulling by your location.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's set 405 North Jefferson, because that's where we are.
And you're just pulling the actual location of the phone, not just hard-coded to 405 North Jefferson, or is that hard-coded for right now?
It's hard-coded for right now, but it's there is two right there. All you have to do is change the 405 Jefferson part to destination. I just ran out of time on Google Maps.
Yeah. Okay. Other judges, other questions?
Kind of see a click, one of the X's or
Yeah.
checks.
Let's see. You can click it, and it goes to the next one. You can click the other one, it goes to the next one. And you can click that, and if the API was attached, then it would go to the API website. Also, it's set up to be usable on a computer with the same keyboard shortcuts as Tinder, so you can left, right on buttons and yes or no.
Cool. Any other questions for Frank?
I don't think so.
All right. Thanks, Frank. Good job.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Pulling up some info for us.
Now we have Wumpus and the Milk Boys.
What? Say that again?
Come on up.
Wumpus and the Milk Boys.
No problem. And while they're transitioning, just for the everybody that's presenting, I've shut off the automatic notifications that happen every 5 minutes. And so if you want those turned back on, or you want me to just trigger jobs or events on demand, if you have any notification features, let me know. And before you begin, and then I'll be standing by and ready to push the button.
Are you Wumpus or one of the Milk Boys?
I'm all for them.
Wow.
All right, so this UI here,
Just one moment. Team name.
Wumpus
Wumpus
and the Milk Boys.
and Milk Boys. That's you.
Spell that, please.
WUMPUS space AND space THE.
I got that one.
And the Milk Boys, right? There's
And the Milk Boys.
All right.
S or a Z?
Oh, with an S. Keep it a little classy.
All right. Go ahead. What
So
you have here.
this UI is a piece of shit that I put together a couple hours. It was an afterthought. There's not a whole lot of functionality here, but there's local storage. You can enter a location. So you enter your location. Whose address are we gonna punch in here?
Frank's.
All right, Frank.
Let's do 405 North Jefferson Avenue.
405
That's
North
where we're here at the factory.
So we save it. And so the functionality is working. What I don't have it doing is actually updating after you click it. It's doing it, and then you wait, and then you refresh the page, and then it's there. I just don't have it hooked in. But see now it's saved in. Here's home, and those don't do anything yet. Oops. But if we go up to this search. This thing, you can see my awesome form that I spent a lot of time on. And we're going to look for all these different job types. We're looking for a minimum education for high school jobs that are anything but casual. And we'll look for, and then what this searches is it searches in either the title or the employer category. But if you click this include description here, it'll also search the description. So let's search for lorem. That's gonna turn up a lot of results. So then we hit save, and then we sit here and we wait.
What's it doing?
Yeah, what it's doing is it's pulling from the API and it's filtering everything, and it's not gonna pop up yet because it just doesn't do that yet. But if we wait and then we refresh, it'll be there because it's stored locally in the local storage. Let's see. Now let's refresh. There we go. Look at all those jobs. That's a lot of jobs. If we click on them, pops up. All that garbage. Look at all that. How's anybody going to find a job in this mess? If we hit view more, it takes us to the URL associated with it. What if I had another day? This was going to go to. So I was actually going to have different icons for the events, and they would all be on the same thing rather than being separate. But you can fill. So I have in the code that maybe I'll pull up. I have a lot of it commented out, but there were a lot more items in this, but they were cluttering it up, and they weren't really doing anything yet.
Sure.
But you could search either job, or you could do event, or you could do both. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Judges, we have 5 minutes for questions for Wumpus and the Milk Boys. What technology did you use?
I used Vue and Vuex and Vue Router. I used Google Maps. I typed in like Google Map styles. It took me like 15 minutes, and I found this cool map style that I didn't have to come up with myself. Rather than like the regular tan thing. Just kind of went with the theme.
Is this a mobile app or is this web? Or what?
It's a web app.
It's a web app.
Yep.
What's the level of effort to transition this from web app to a mobile app?
I don't know. I hit the button that said make it easy to make it a progressive web app, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know. I do know, I know native script Vue, so I could translate it to that pretty easily. It's pretty similar technologies anyway. That's how it's doing. It's doing the local storage, and that's how it is able to switch between different pages and keep the keep the same state. It's because it's using Vuex, and there's a plugin for it that makes all the things stored locally and saved.
Does that have a fallback for if local storage isn't available?
Probably not.
Are there any other features you were on the cusp of getting completed?
The events, more search stuff. I was going. Oh, the notifications would have been easy. Just send notification. So all this stuff is saved in the back end. All the UR, the API endpoints, they're all saved. You create a function and you send it, or there's a function that if you send like job to, or you send whatever to it, it grabs whatever from each endpoint and saves it. So you have it all stored. But another thing that's really easy, or would have been really easy, is getting that save and hide. So I was gonna have save it as your favorites, and hide to hide them, and it would just be grabbing it. It would just be filtering it, deleting it out of the saved list. Should be pretty easy to do. Oh, and the location, the distance. I was really close to that too. I don't have it in here because I got rid of all those fields. But what I have, what are saved is the latitude and longitude. It's already saved. All these, they have theirs saved. Obviously, it's why it's able to populate them. But I just do some math and create that distance.
So how many milk boys were there on your team?
That's private.
How many people were on your team?
Just me.
Just you.
Yeah. I got an hour of sleep yesterday between it was like 3 and 4:30 p.m. Yep.
Better than 0.
Yeah, a little bit.
Any other questions for Wumpus? What about the Milk Boys? No?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. Next up is generational gap. Thank you very much.
your way on up here, and just wanted to share a couple quick stats with you. We had about 40 people participating on teams, and then we had quite a few people available on site as mentors throughout the weekend. Combined, I don't have the final number yet, but it looks like between the teams and the mentors and everybody that was here involved, we logged over 1,000 hours helping out with all these different projects. So kudos to everybody who's been involved with all that. And I was just tallying up the overnight stays, but for those who participate, we let you know ahead of time, like we're gonna stick around till 10 or 12 and head home. Didn't really work out that way for everybody. People know that they're welcome to stay throughout the night, but even people that have the best of intentions of leaving by midnight stuck around a little late sometimes. So me included, if I look a little tired, I was there with you at least for one of the overnights. But I'll talk a little bit more about that after this one. So welcome Generational Gap. Can you introduce each of yourselves?
Hi, we're Generational Gap. I'm Eric McCullough.
Amber Donaldson.
I'm Thomas Reese.
My dad had to leave early, but our name used to be relevant. So yeah, first we were just going to reintroduce the project, but it seems like everyone's pretty up to date on what it is. So we were really excited to work on this opportunity and to do some good for the community. So first what I was going to do is talk a little bit about our tech stack, and then we're going to do the demo. This is a MERN stack project, so we have a Mongo database, a Node and Express server, and a React Native mobile app. And at this point, I'm going to start the app on my phone and hand it to the judges so that they can see some features that the simulator can't run. And then we'll run through the rest of the application on the iOS simulator. As for hosting, currently our database is on a Heroku database, but it's not really married to that, so we wanted to give the customer the opportunity to figure out what hosting service would work best for their business needs. But whenever you launch our app, you have this 3-second splash screen after it loads that shows our logo that Amber put together. Here we have the screen to set your location. Currently we're just using the native feature of using the phone's location. There is a form here that we could use later to resolve a physical address to the latitude and longitude that the map API needs to use. And yeah, so here's our main job screen. We don't have any filtering set up on the server yet. The hooks and the data needed to implement those are in place. But right now we're only pulling down, I believe, 15 instances of jobs. And the iOS simulator thinks it's in San Francisco. So that's why the map is currently showing that location. But from here, if we want to set some preferences, we can come to this screen here and change things like the education level, the distance that they would want to travel, as well as whether or not they want to walk, take the bus, or drive a car. All of this is saved in the phone's storage, so it is maintained as a persistent session. And from here, we can go through and whenever you click on a job, it renders the map and shows on the map where the job is and gives the title of the job and some basic information about it. And I believe that is currently what we have. Did I miss anything?
The iconometers later.
Yeah. So there's a couple features that are very close to being implemented that we haven't quite gotten to yet. For example, on this screen, we have the functionality implemented to drop the locations of nearby jobs. We just haven't been able to implement the filtering on the server side yet. Yeah, and Amber did make custom icons. We're pretty happy with that. But yeah, do we have any questions?
Okay, we'll 5 minutes.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Judges, questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
And I was playing with the phone, so I
Yeah.
apologize.
Uh-huh.
But did I miss the part where it was like walk by a bus?
Yeah,
Did I
so
miss that?
if you
'Cause I
press...
was looking down. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem at all.
I couldn't get that picture.
You are correct.
Let me show you on the
It's because it's an Android.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Here we go.
Right.
I'm sure it'll work over here.
But if we press the gear here, this does bring up the settings page. And if we go all the way to the bottom and not touching the picker, there we go. These switches here let you decide whether or not you want to set those preferences.
Can you show where those react? Does it actually show on the map or show somewhere where the actual distance is?
Not right now.
Okay.
Do we have that?
No, so I'm hooked into the Google API, but I just needed more time because I was smushing together two APIs and trying to figure them out. But yeah, I mean, you can hit the endpoint, but it just returns nothing because I think it's like a callback issue or something.
Yeah. That's why it's a hackathon.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Other questions, judges?
So is this hitting Jason's API directly, or did you guys build that your own backend that works with his API that then your app hits?
So the way it's set up right now is we wanted to have our own database. That way we could query it based on user preferences. Right now, what it does is whenever you start the server, it queries Jason's API and it uses it to populate our Mongo database. And then from there on out, we just work from that.
Okay, cool. You said it's React Native. I saw it's using Apple Maps. Does it use Google Maps on Android?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, just whatever the native. Okay, cool.
I think it just uses the default for the operating system.
Cool. Are there any features you didn't get to besides applying the distance filter that you were hoping to?
Yeah, we were really close to actually being able to render the jobs on this map here, kind of around the current location. I can't quite remember how close we were to getting that, but from what my dad was telling me, just like a couple more lines of code to hook that in. So.
Do you have anything yet, or would that need to be built later for saving a particular job? Maybe you showed it and I just missed it. But
Yeah, we didn't quite get to that, but we do have storage on the phone set up to handle something like that.
And some of the UIs there for the favorite option on some of the screens, but not
Yeah,
all.
there's an icon. It exists.
It was a low priority.
And then the same thing for notifying. Did you have any way to tell them when a new job is there yet, or is that something you would continue to build later?
Yeah, that's a feature we decided would need to be added after the weekend.
Any other questions, judges? Sally?
No, I was thinking about, so Google Maps and Apple Maps, are they the same?
Not exactly. So right now, all the phone does is it decides just based on the Android or Apple default which map to use. So.
But are they different? So if I mean, like, would my distance look different with Google Maps rather than?
Possibly. The main difference, I believe, is that things like bus routes might be more updated on Google Maps versus Apple Maps. However, you can configure iOS to use Google Maps. It's just something we didn't quite get to.
I don't think they changed much.
Okay, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Generational Gap. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Next up, we have Lane, Levi, Austin, and
Aaron.
We'll
introduce everyone when we get out.
I don't know. Yeah,
Mike.
they'll introduce. And Mike, and Enoch. Lane.
And while they're getting set up,
Where's the HDMI cable?
I realize not everybody here has been involved the whole weekend. We have a couple of guests. So for those of you who aren't up to speed on what's happening, we're basically working with the local City of Springfield Workforce Development to make their job data more accessible to people who are looking for jobs, rather than going out to the current state website and searching for Springfield and then trying to narrow down by job type, or and then ultimately figuring out, is this job close enough to me or not. We're trying to take a different approach where we show jobs that are near them and then let them filter through those jobs based on distance instead, and hopefully match with jobs that are most convenient versus trying to figure out which jobs are a good match. But now I'll hand it off to Lame, who logged the most hours this weekend with 121 hours and 4 overnights. So
That's right.
All right. So we are Team Lame, and despite the name, well, actually we are lame quite, but what we're going to show you is not lame. So keep that in mind. All right. So to introduce everyone, and hopefully this will shed some light on the name. My name is Levi, and right here we have Aaron Merrick, Mike Copanos, and Enoch Bradshaw. And I want to give each of these guys a chance to talk about a little bit of what they did on the project, starting with Aaron.
Hi, I'm Aaron Merrick. Majority of my development time was in the front end. I designed pages based on the wireframes we had, as well as manipulated data once I received it from our back end.
And then Mike.
Yeah, Mike Copanos. Like Aaron, worked on the front end with him, building out UI, and also worked with the Google Maps API to bring in locations and some of the other features we're going to show off, so I won't say too much.
Okay, and then Enoch.
I'm Enoch. I worked on the back end mostly, and then I helped provide a little bit of some design assets.
Mm-hmm. And I was kind of a polyglot across the whole thing, did a little bit of front end, back end, and helped set up hosting, all that kind of stuff. So, wanted to introduce the team because these are all great guys. And now let's get into a demo. So our application that we built is a web app, and you might be a little bit surprised with some of the features that this has built in, because it really is just a web app, not a native app. So right here, I have a bookmark on my Android device here that links straight to our app. So I'm going to tap on that. And the first screen you see is the entrance form asking for your location. All this stuff works. You enter in your address, it converts it into a lat long, saves it into the device for use later. We can also tap this to get current location. So right now it just grabbed my geo coordinates. The first screen you see here, this is the jobs listing page. This shows all the jobs with the ability to search through these. And all this data is coming in from the API that Jason built. We'll touch on that a little bit more later. And then also, because we wanted to give users a view into this data compared to where they are in the world, there's a map tab that displays, ooh, this internet's a little bit slow.
Sorry, there it is.
There we go.
I didn't pay my data bill.
So here we have all those locations mapped out here, and also the user's location has a special home icon, and this just basically shows all of the jobs that show up in the normal list. And if we look through this list, there's this job called taper, and right here I can search for taper, and it's the #1 result. So the search is totally working. Also, if we open up the settings cog here, we have some filtering options. So instead of looking at the jobs near me, we could look at the newest ones, which, if you look at the timestamp, shows these were posted just a couple of minutes ago to the API. And then if I jump back, we can also filter based on education level, based on the job type, and if we go back, the search results automatically update. And this brings me into the next screen, which is the job detail page. If we tap on one of these jobs, it'll take just a second, and here we have all the details from this job loaded from the API, the job description, and if you can also see the job type and requirements match the filters that we had set. And then we have the button to apply now, which takes you off to the Hack for Good website, which will, oh no! My thing just crashed. What happened?
I was like, this was a
Negative 5 points.
Okay. Also on the job detail page, we show the user's location relative to the job location, as well as pulling in the travel time there. If we tap on the map, it opens the Google Maps app, giving them directions directly to that location. Once again, Enoch didn't pay his phone bill, so the data's being really slow.
That data cap, boy.
Next, I also want to show off the saving jobs feature. So right here, this job is something that I've already saved. So if I come here and tap here, these are all the jobs that I've saved. I can go back. This takes me to the job detail page. I can unsave it, and the list automatically updates in here. So any job I can save and come back and look later. Here we have the events page, which this is pulling in events from the API. There's also an event detail page, which looks a lot like the job detail page that I'll skip over for now. We also have the notification screen. This is the only part of the app where we didn't get the chance to hook up to real data, but we decided to go ahead and build out the UI because we had some really good front-end people here who were cranking away. And then we also have the ability for a user to go back and change their location, which will automatically update the search results. And the last thing I want to demo really quick is if Jason can go ahead and ping the webhooks, which is supposed to be essentially sending a new job.
Okay, I'm posting a new job.
Right here, I just got a push notification on my phone with the details, the title of that job, and if I tap on it, it takes me directly to that job detail page where I can look at more details about this job.
Oh.
Okay, so that's all the basic features of our app so far.
Judges, we have 5 minutes. What questions do you have, Sally? Anything offhand?
Let me just.
What?
Go ahead.
So you guys built it. Technologies and services you guys are using. Go.
Yes, Enoch, talk about our backend.
Okay, so our custom backend is in .NET Core, and it basically funnels the data from the API and pumps it into Algolia, and then the front end can go.
Can you talk a little bit about what Algolia is for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, Algolia is a search service. That's what it does.
Cool. Thank you. And what about the front end?
Sure, the front end, we use Vue, but we used it with Quasar, which is a styling library framework to help us with icons and just basic styling.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good overview of the front end.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned you built it as a web app and you're using web push notifications and all that. Do you see any shortcomings with that approach, or like what would it take to then go from that to a mobile app if it absolutely had to be native?
Sure, absolutely. So web push notifications have a couple of limitations. One, I think on Safari, if the user doesn't visit the website after a while, the push notifications will stop working because Apple doesn't want to bother their users. If we went a fully native approach, that limitation would not be in place. Now, this Quasar, the component library that we used, has really great support for running in both a Cordova environment and just a plain web environment. So this app could very easily be ported to Cordova and run it as a native application. And essentially everything we're doing on here is pretty agnostic between the web and Cordova. The only thing that would really need any work is the push notification stuff.
And are there any other services you might have forgotten to mention that maybe have to do with push notifications?
Yes, so the push notifications, thank you. So push notifications are handled by a service called OneSignal. The great thing about OneSignal is they send push notifications. They support a billion types of platforms, including the web and iOS and Android and even like Amazon devices who uses those. So any device that this thing wants to be deployed to, the push notification stuff, there's going to be SDKs out the wazoo to make it work.
You said, there was a button on there that said apply now.
Mm-hmm.
And is that working there?
So it essentially does.
Does it go right to the company's website? Or?
No, it doesn't do that. It does kind of what Jason had outlined in the project resources. He is providing a URL that at some point in the future will forward to the Mojobs website listing.
And then they apply through.
Yes. So there's a little bit of a hang up there, but with the data that we were given, it does essentially what it's supposed to.
So basically it's Jason's fault?
Yes. Well, we had all sorts of problems that are Jason's fault.
Yeah, don't get started. Sore subject.
Any other questions?
Do you have like a cumulative count of how much coffee, energy drinks, etc. you guys have been running with those?
Too many.
We do have a cumulative count of lines and commits.
Oh yeah, we had like almost 200 commits on this project. We were cranking away, like Jason said, 4 all-nighters over here. We're all really tired. Almost 3,500 lines of code across both of our code bases, the server and the client, and then yeah, like almost 200 commits too. So we were going hard.
Well, they look tired.
Yeah.
You're a little crazy.
I had a whole bunch of coffee just before.
He asked for the coffee.
went?
Yeah. Somebody else had a question, so I like to just.
No, I just made a cocaine
Question in the back.
I was just wondering if there were any other questions that Charlie should ask on your behalf.
Is there any cost associated with any of these services, or what's the?
Yeah, I can jump in on there. So most of the time, it's pretty much pay as you go. The Google Maps obviously incurs some costs. They give you $100 in free credit every month. And there's a handful of APIs we're using with Google Maps. The other potential cost would be Algolia, that search as a service that we're using. Although they do have a community plan that is free to use for non-commercial use. So depending on the rules of your organization, you might be able to get a free license. If not, plans start at $30 a month.
And how integral is that to the functionality? Like, could that be swapped out later if they had to because of cost or something like that?
It would definitely be a little bit of work, but I would say once you hit that scale, you're going to have to set up your own like Elasticsearch instance or something like that to, which is probably going to be more expensive than that $30 a month anyways. So just like with any project, once you hit a certain scale, there's obviously going to need to be changes that are made. Sure. We did have a question in the back, Fred?
Yes. So my big question was, the application assumes that everybody has access to internet.
Yes, it does. It isn't a progressive web app at this point. It theoretically could be, but yeah, no, we didn't build any offline first functionality.
Is that something you guys would be planning for if this were to make it?
Oh, absolutely. That saved jobs list could totally be viewable. This data, a lot of this data could totally be cached on these devices.
All right, we're at time for questions. Thanks very much. Great job, man.
All right, next up are the Arnold Pomers. And just a couple quick things for the people that are giving me a hard time about the API. For those of you who are joining us, we're not a team. An API gives the developers a standard way to access information. And so what we wanted to avoid was having all of them spend time figuring out ways to pull the jobs out of the Missouri job website. And so instead what we've done is we've built out a structure with sample data that then we will pull the information out of their website either by having them send us reports or by scraping the site directly, since it's an older site that doesn't have its actual API. But that being said, the functionality where they asked me to send them an event, that's something that's standard that was documented in the API. The beauty of an API is that you can have events like that documented and planned, and then they know to just wait for the event to come through. I hadn't coordinated any of that with them other than them saying, hey, are you going to be able to push an event during our demo? Whereas in the real world, we would be checking for new data on the Missouri Jobs website. And anytime we see new data, we pull it into the API and we notify any subscribers that data is out there, which would cause you to see sort of those push notifications that showed up on their app. With that, are you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. The Arnold Pomers.
How does it take you over there? Oh,
Mirror. Do some introductions of each other while you're getting loaded.
All right, so we're the Arnold Pomers. So just a quick introduction to the team. While Hira is bringing that up, I'm Ben Pomerenke. I'm a software developer at Worldwide Technology. Did a little bit of iOS and a little bit of web development on this project.
I'm Hira. I also respond to Hira because I'm too nice to correct people. I did work with Jordan and Ben as a software developer. I'm technically on a sabbatical, but I'd like to tell people I'm retired because it's more provocative. But I'm looking for pro bono work, so if you're looking for a developer that's willing to work 4 to 6 hours max a week, come holler at me.
I'm Shabura. I'm a student out of DC. I did most of the HTML and CSS. It's my first time doing something from scratch in a group project, so it's pretty fun.
I'm Dmitry, also a student at OTC, Computer Science, first year. I
help a bit with the HTML, learn some TypeScript, good experience.
And I'm Jordan McAdoo. I'm a software engineer at Stitch Fix, and I did only iOS because I refused to do the web stuff.
Good choice. Just to tell you a little bit about our project, or our app. So we actually have two apps. So the iOS is native iOS, and then for Android, or it would also work for Apple, we have a progressive web app written in Angular. And so just to show you the apps, so these are the features we actually were able to get done. If you want to plug in a phone, you first.
Go.
And we're going to demo them from a phone here. So first, we're going to be doing the progressive web app. This is on Android.
That's my dog. Well, he passed away years ago, but yeah, sorry. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Quick, Jordan, get your dog.
Bring your dog out. Yeah. So as Ben mentioned, this is a progressive web app, so you can add it to your home screen and install it like a native app, but don't have to go to the stores, the App Store or the Google Play Store. So I'll launch it. On load, this is hitting the API and fetching all the things. So every that magical gift. We didn't give a shout out to Kero. She couldn't make it today.
Yeah.
She's our designer. So yeah, once that's loaded, you can use your current location and fetch jobs that are nearest you. Okay, cool. It didn't put me in Dallas. I've been hanging out in Texas for some reason through my phone. So yeah, here are the list of jobs down below, and on the map you can see that it marks all of the jobs around us. 2 fingers, Hira. You can change the distance filter here. And so we'll pop into the outdoor power mechanic and see the details. So you get the details for the job, the description, a little short path for the job from where you are. And then you can also launch your default app for maps on your phone and go straight there, of course, and then choose your mode of transportation. Cycling is cool, so let's do that. I think those are all of the features for the web app. Oh yeah, I can click apply. Yep. There we go. Cool. Jordan, you up? Pow.
And I'll walk through the iOS app. Pull that up.
Oh gosh. Don't look up.
Go.
Do it. Do this.
Why'd you break it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I'll tap on our app. Like I said, I worked in iOS. I am an iOS developer and kind of like diehard native person. So that's what I opted to do. I think there's a lot of benefits to having native apps, and some of those were mentioned earlier, like the ability to have push notifications and everything kind of self-contained, and then also it makes the app more usable for the users on that platform. It's like what they're used to in the styling. So in this first screen, it's the job search, which we should all be familiar with at this point. You can choose to use my current location, which is going to request the device location from the phone, or you can type in an address. I'll start by using my current location. Some of these API requests take a minute, so sorry. Cool. It brings up this screen, which is the search results. It shows you your location in a different color, and then the jobs nearest to you first. They're sorted by distance, and you can scroll down there. You can also filter them, so search in them, so if I type in here, type school, then it filters it down. You can, in this segmented control, change the distance, and then if we scroll down, we can see some more added. Don't look at that one. Some of these titles are too long, but you can change the distance. If you click on one of them up here, from this view, you can open maps and get navigated there. You can also click on one of the jobs. And from here, you can do the same thing. You can open up maps. You can expand the description or collapse it. At the bottom, you can see details about the job. You can click to apply. Opens up in the browser. And up at the top, you can favorite. Once I've favorited it, if I go over to the favorites tab, you can see it there. You can remove it by clicking into it here, or if you go back, you can remove it from that job details as well. And then we go there, you can see it's gone. The second tab is the events. This one we didn't get as far in, but we have a list of the events here. There's some details. You can see a little bit of the description, the date and time and cost, and you can see them on the map. If you click on one of them, it will select it on the map for you, and again, you can open maps and navigate there. And if you go in here, and I'll use my old address so no one can come to my house.
Where's the fun in that?
If you don't fill out all the fields, it will alert you to them. I wanted some better error handling, but I just didn't get there in time. But if you fill this out, use this address, it will update it in that view as well as the events view. I think that's it. I wrote some notes for myself. Yeah. I wanted better error handling. As you can see on the first screen, I didn't have like keyword avoidance, but you can scroll down to the fields in the form. Some UI cleanup to match mocks better. Push notifications I didn't get to, but it would be pretty simple to get that implemented later. And saving the favorites and other user data to a backend. I just didn't have that available to do, or I would have. And adding account info so that you could like store your home address or upload a resume, etc. were some things that I wanted to add. Is that it?
Great job, Arnold Pomers. So we got 5 minutes, judges. Ask away.
Yeah. So you have two separate apps, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, is it going to be hard to get that Android, as functional with as many features as this one?
Well, so I took the native approach, right? So if you wanted to like implement a native Android app, it would be a bit of work. There's some tools to like convert what you have existing in your iOS code into Android native language, and then from there you could kind of clean it up and make sure everything's working. But we also didn't get there. But their web app should run on iOS as well. So you could take it from that side of things as well. So kind of two options. Like if you want to go to the native route, you can. You just have to start working on the Android app, or you could build on top of their web app.
Yeah, you basically when you're building cross-platform, you have two options. You can build it once and use it in both, or you can build it twice. When you build it twice, you actually get better experiences on both platforms. You do have to write technically double the code, but actually what a lot of the cost of building software is figuring out how you want it to work and how you want things to flow together. And so that can be reused for both. You just have to write double code. But actually writing code is one of the fastest things we do. The thing that takes more time is building the right application. So by going native first, you get more of the platform engagement that we'd be wanting to get.
So we just kind of brought both.
We didn't have a lot of Android experience on the team. We did attempt it. I think we spent about 4 hours to get one up and running, and we're like, this feels a little wonky. And we're like, well, we know how to do a progressive web app, so we'll do a progressive web app to cover Android.
Do you have any way? I know you said you didn't have push notifications, but just to see new events or new jobs.
Yeah, it'll refresh it as you go through there, like once the view loads. But
does it call out that this is a new one, or is it just it just updates the new stuff? So that's something that could be added though.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you guys hitting Jason's API directly from the app?
Yep.
Yeah. Both the Angular app and iOS app.
Yeah. Yeah, can you talk, you said Angular, so keep us a little bit more on the progressive web app.
Yeah, so basically, to set that up, if I'm not mistaken, it's just a manifest file, and you define assets that you download when you hit the website. And so the progressive web app, it gets progressively better over time as you visit it. When you visit it for the first time, you can download it like a native app. It'll ask you to add it to the home screen or add it in your home tray.
Yeah, so like for instance, this is what it looks like. It looks like an app to the user. You can specify like icons and stuff like an app would, and when you open it, it appears that it's an app, even though this is just a browser. Right.
Oh, that's something I wanted to implement too, is like some form of caching for those events. And then like maybe once the push notification comes through, at that point you call to the service, but didn't get there.
True. Yeah, we had a Django backend spun up, but we realized we could just hit Jason's API directly from Angular, the iOS app, so we didn't use our backend.
Judges, other questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Right on time.
Next up for the viral Groundhogs.
Good luck at your game.
And we just heard from one of the 4 teams who logged over 100 hours this weekend. Big thanks to each of the teams that just really cranked away all weekend. We had a couple other things. As far as overnight stats, we had 28 overnight stays. Some of those were people who stayed a couple of times in the weekend. Some of those were people who stayed once. But that we consider an overnight stay. Anybody who's stayed most of the hours between 12 and 6 a.m. That doesn't necessarily mean they didn't sleep, but they might have really cranked out a lot of code throughout the weekend. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Viral Groundhogs.
Hi, we are the Viral Groundhog team. I'm Carmen.
I'm Colten.
I'm Jacob.
Okay, so we're just going to do a really brief presentation, then we'll show you our actual app. So our tech that we used is React, Bootstrap, the Bootstrap React library, and then Webpack and Yarn. And then I'm going to briefly go over our features and screenshots, and then I'll show you how they actually work. So the main features we did were being able to use it on a mobile app, being able to view jobs based on your location, whether it's your current location or an address that you choose. You can view jobs details and see each of the jobs on the map from your home location. And we have the events listed here. This is like our main thing. So then I will just go ahead and show you our real thing here. So let's see how, okay. Well, everything is large. It's not, let's try this. Maybe? That's too small. Well.
You fit to window.
Okay. Great. Alright, so here's our first page. You can use your current location, and you can see that's where we are right now. It's actually really accurate because when we were over in that other room, our little icon was like right here. So that's kind of weird that it knows that. So you can see the jobs around us, and this scrolls independently of the map. So you can click on these little things, and that will bring us to the details page eventually. Okay, so here's this. The details page is what it looks like. You can see the name, the company, and the description. And we, up here, we wanted to pull in the times for that. We couldn't get that working, but what you can do is if you click on that map, it takes you to the latitude and longitude, and you can get your directions right here, which obviously isn't ideal since it's not directly in the app, but it is really close to it.
And something to point out with that too is we were actually talking with the API, and we were actually getting numbers back. It was actually just hooking it in. We just didn't have the time. It was literally like 10 minutes before noon, and it's just like, okay, well, we can't actually get it in, but we were getting results back for that, so that would be fairly simple to put in.
We're having React issues and stacking in JavaScript as it goes. So that's that, and we can favorite this location and it will, or this job, show up in our favorites. We didn't do a real notifications page, but we put this in here to show where it would go. And here's our events page that calls to the API and gets the events. We wanted to be able to make these clickable and show the event details, but we did not get that in time. And I'll show you can search. Okay, this is a Google autocomplete form, but we're having Google API issues, so it wouldn't can't load. So it's not auto-completing like it's supposed to. That's why it's only one line. But I'll just use my address that I used before. And so you can see it searches from an address that you choose. And we'll show jobs based on this address. And you can scroll and click on these as well. And yeah, our loading times are not great, obviously.
Yeah, so we didn't build any sort of backend. We just did the React front end since we had an API to hit. So one problem with that though is we couldn't query by a certain like job ID, job type, or anything like that. So we basically just had to pull the raw JSON into our React, and then we'd have to search for that, which takes a lot of time whenever you're just doing the normal results. And it's like, okay, I expect that, but whenever you just pull up the details page, you wouldn't really want that. So I think with a little bit more, if the backend could actually bring back just like one job, I don't think it would take that long normally.
And I think those are all our features, main features, right? Did I mark anything else on here? No, that's that.
Good job. Judges, 5 minutes.
Is it 4 people?
Yeah.
Are there any other, so I see you have some icons down at the bottom. I guess those aren't hooked up yet.
That's how I was kind of navigating a little bit. That, like I said, the notifications page doesn't. We haven't done any type of push notifications yet. The events page does load eventually. So annoying. And then the favorites page I showed, and then yeah, these actually do work. These are actually the first thing we did. So that's that.
So is there any like search based on criteria beyond location?
No, we didn't get the filtering hooked up, unfortunately.
That's the one thing we didn't really even touch on.
Yeah, we were like, if we had to choose between like a job that we could see that was like right next to us versus trying to get everything else in, we probably would want the ones closest. So we just they sort by closest first automatically, and that's the only thing we have right now.
And how are you getting that distance? Is that Google?
The distance is actually just the straight line distance from the house to the location.
I have a question. So it seems like we've talked about with all the teams, it's like iPhone or Droid, and I apologize if I missed that.
No, this is a web
conversation.
app, so you can see it on. It's on phones.
Yeah.
It's a website. It would be a website. It's obviously not a website right now.
It would be something that you'd have to wrap in Cordova or something. We haven't really looked into that, but that was the idea, is that that's what would happen, and it would work on theoretically all devices.
Did you say, does it load up any sort of routing between the two? I may have missed that too, or is that not something you can do later?
It doesn't. Like I said, if you actually click on the result, we were going to have the distances, and then we were also going to display the route. Like I said, we were getting numbers back for that, but we weren't able to actually.
I know you said the distances. I wasn't sure if you had mentioned the route yet.
Oh, no.
So that's
we
something
haven't.
that you could add later, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And you can always like I said, it's not great that we don't have the numbers right here, but it does link directly to the lat and longitude of Google Maps, and you can get your bus, car, bike. It's just right from that website. So, yeah.
Judges, other questions? Great job.
All right, next up is medium effort. And they're right over here. Bob's headed this way, so I'm gonna have. I want to be sure everybody knows about Bob. Oh, he's locked out. But Bob's been heavily involved in the tech community for a long time, and he and his wife Maria were the ones who made sure that everybody was well fed and well watered the whole weekend, and so they just took care of everything end to end. I just wanted to thank Bob and his wife for everything that they did, because as a co-coordinator with Tim, this was one big part of the event that we didn't have to do hardly anything with. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll hand it over to you guys.
All right, yeah, we're medium effort. It's good to set expectations up front. I'm Tiffany, and this is Kirsten. We're both professors in CIS at OTC, and this is Mark and Mike. They are developers at NetSmart here in Springfield. And so we have developed a web application using React. And so I'll just give you a little walkthrough here. This is our home page. So when you start up our site, you can either choose to use your current location, which is using that geolocation service to get that, or you can manually provide your address and search. And then, so if I use my current location, then we're going to come over and we're going to get our list of jobs. And while that loads for a second, Mark, do you want to talk about our back end?
So the back end is just an ASP.NET Core MVC back end. The main purpose of our back end is it initiates the call to Jason's API to get all the jobs. The intent was to filter at that point. But right now we're just essentially returning all the jobs.
So we've got our filters set up here right now. They're not working, so we've turned them off so that they didn't create any problems for us. But what we were working towards and partially implemented was being able to then select this, and then it would filter that list by that criteria. So right now you can see all the jobs that we're pulling based on that information, and then you can click on one of these and get some further information about that job. And then we're loading in that map with the pin here. You can click on this map button and load that into the maps over here, and so get that pinned information. And then if you click this more button, that's pulling that URL that's assigned to that job, which right now we know goes to that main Hack for Good site, but that's how they would be able to then go get more information or apply. And so you can see the further details that we're pulling on that job down here. We also have the events available, so you can come up to the menu and pull up the job events, which basically works the same way without any filters or anything as the way that we're getting our jobs, but this just gives them the ability to see those different events that are coming up, where they are, when they're happening, and if you click more information, then again, we're grabbing that URL and then just kicking them out to the website. Anything else I need to talk about? All this beautiful CSS styling. Thank you, Kirsten.
I did a thing. I can spell React now.
All right, I think that's it. So questions?
Thanks, Steve. Judges.
Can you hit the menu again? I missed what was in there.
Oh, it's just, you can go back home, or you can pull up this event list. If you go back home, that just takes you back to this, where you can start over your your workflow. But we kind of saw this as it's a process. So you're either going to say, I want my location, or I'm giving you a location, and then we'll present you with jobs based on that information. So just trying to minimize the clicks and the menus and the amount of work that it would take to get there.
The icons at the bottom that connect with us, are those actually connected to the...
Yes. Yeah, you can like click the link and go to the Facebook page for MoJobs, or we pulled these links off of the MoJobs website. They have this footer. So we tried to style this so that it looked very consistent with the current website.
Did the favorites work? I forget.
No, we don't have favoriting. Yeah, we're not storing any favorites or preferences or anything right now.
What would be the next feature that you would add to this as far as how close you were with things you had in progress, or what you want to expand on next?
We felt close with the filtering. So getting those filter boxes from the jobs list would probably be a small amount of effort. And then medium effort, small amount of medium effort. And then we have the address data on that jobs list. So if we wanted the map with pins, that would be easy.
Yeah, instead of showing out to instead of essentially going to the Google to get your mapping stuff, you can map straight in the page, because we have that information. It's just not doing the routing.
Yeah, we're already hooked in. We've got a kind of a React library that wraps that Google API. And so we don't have to go call back out for that data. It's there. We just need to plant that map and then put the pins in.
And they're not like straight calls either. Like you can do straight calls to Google Maps where you just like build the URL out, right? But I wanted a library that actually integrated with Google Maps API, so that if you have an enterprise key, you can actually see how many times people are searching for a location and how often they're hitting it. And you can get all this data that's essentially free from Google. That you otherwise wouldn't get, so it actually uses that, like you should if you're in enterprise.
Yeah.
Great job, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up we have Bro. And for anybody who came out today, not necessarily for the weekend, if you'd like one of the Hack for Good goodie bags, or some of the other goodies that are sitting out here at these tables on your way out, we have things like Classy Llama's Llama Game and information about that. But definitely stop by and pick things up on the way out. We'll find good uses for them if you don't take them, but we'd much rather they go to folks that are here involved with us today.
Yeah. While he's getting that pulled up, my name's Caleb, and I'm an OTC student.
Joey, OTC student as well.
Nick, OTC student. It's our first time actually building anything from the ground up.
Yeah, this was definitely more of a learning experience than anything else for us. It was really fun, but
Tell us your team name one more time. Your team name one more time. Sorry.
Snowbro. Snowbro.
Snow?
Yeah. So, the story behind the name, sitting there trying to do registration going, what's a name, what's a name? This one's stupid, this one's stupid. Okay, let's put the last name together. Okay, that's stupid. Let's put an O in there instead. Okay, it's not as stupid. It's still stupid, it's just not as stupid. So, let's see actually. All right. Do you want to see? Where you can go ahead and you want to start searching for jobs, or if you already have stuff. So hit search for jobs brings you to your select, whether you want to select your current location, enter a new one. Let's say current location. We'll allow it. And then it'll bring up all of the jobs from the listings that are near your current location. We also added a little link to Google Maps.
And we just did that a few minutes ago. I was so excited I figured that out. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to work. It's perfect. So, yeah.
takes the coordinates. Who actually had this running up and running with the duration and the distance, and then we ended up pulling and ended up breaking it. But we were able to get around not being able to return.
And the framework we are using is Vue.js, along with jQuery, which really doesn't go, it's not supposed to go together, but it's what I recently learned, so I was like, oh, I know this. But it was, so we pretty much used those two things.
That's pretty much actually what we were able to get done this weekend as well.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time just debugging and fixing and breaking and fixing.
Yeah.
Great job. Judges, 5 minutes for questions.
You don't need to take the whole time. It's fine.
So what are the buttons bottom take you anywhere?
Oh,
they do. They should. I believe
they
so,
do
right?
kind of. There's nothing in them, but they do. We did everything. Depending on where you were, it would bring up a component. But
Just to clarify, I didn't get it. I thought I saw the one. Make sure. Is it actually pulling in live data, or are you using?
No, it is. We're pulling in from the API.
Yeah. Cool.
And we do store the location locally as well. We figured that out. So it's pretty easy, I think, to store other information. Like we wanted to store the API locally up to maybe a certain number of results because it's surprisingly a lot of data. I didn't realize how big it was, and I'm like, maybe we should have put this on some kind of back end because it takes a minute to load.
Yeah.
But yeah.
On that, can you go back to the home page?
yeah, that one will be.
We'll refresh.
Okay. And so, can you guys search one more time?
Let's just.
Okay. And so you say you do the current location. Does the doing typing and basing the address work?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we do have. Actually, we'll check.
Yeah.
Well, city's not properly working, but that's just a whole nother thing. But it does have a little bit of validation. Will not work there. 6.5.
Is it on
6.5.6. Oh, sorry.
Reese. Yeah.
Sorry for the little bit of a cluster, but. What the heck is going on here? 1, 2, 3, 4.
It worked great a little while ago.
Refresh if you want.
Yeah.
The validation of it,
Yeah. We're using regex to do the validation as well. He built it, so.
So you're blaming it on him?
No.
Oh,
I
no,
meant,
no.
I meant he's a lot smarter at that. I'm not very good with it, so no.
Yeah.
It looks like when you cut everything out, it looks like it's trying to grab that and then it's going invalid.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to process it.
But it did work before, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, it did.
It
It did work at one point.
Well, I would say yesterday, probably before midnight, but then you get overnight and you start breaking stuff.
That's great.
Okay.
Judges, other questions?
And you would be able to get the job detail.
Yeah, I thought about, because we're building this in Bootstrap for the theming. And it's pretty easy, honestly, to maybe pop up some kind of modal or something, and to populate the data. I thought about doing that recently, but we just didn't get to it, honestly. And the only reason that we actually even knew how to really work through Vue.js is that amazing teacher in the back, Mrs. Markley, right there. So she was really great. I really liked her. But that's it.
Any final questions?
Cool.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Great job.
Okay, and finally our final team is the Team Beavers. And while they're coming up here, just wanted you to know what to expect afterwards. We're going to let the judges head out and deliberate, and while they're doing that, We're going to host a discussion as a group about features or feedback that you might have had as a group that we want workforce development to take into consideration, that we should be tracking so that when we take this into the hack night, those ideas don't get lost, as well as a discussion about what we might be able to do to improve the API to make things easier for everybody moving forward, because this is a project we fully intend to continue building and launch in the near future. And then after that, we're going to give away some prizes. So if somebody can load a random number app on their phone, I'll give you a range, and then you'll be determining who gets the prizes. And because I've got the list here, I will just need a number. And then finally, we'll break for a little bit until they're ready to reveal the awards. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. So I'm Seth Kitchen. I work here out of the E-Factory and co-working, and we were leaving on Friday, and we're like, oh, this looks pretty cool opportunity. So we just kind of like hopped in. Luckily, they had us when we were able to do something. You want to talk about how we got our team name, Hal?
Well, he made me pick a name. I thought of Beavers because I'm not good at picking names. And the only reason I'm here is because we were supposed to hang out on Friday night, and he said, oh, let's do this. So that's why I'm here.
I mean, we also played a game of Scrabble and stuff too, so that was fun too. But
exciting weekend.
But so our app is actually on the Android store, so if you want to demo it, you can download it now. But basically the whole idea is we wanted to stay as close to like the description as possible, which was you guys wanted a native app. So basically what we did is we created a Xamarin Forms app, which makes it completely native on both platforms. So there's no web server. There's nothing that you would have to pay for on a monthly basis that differentiates us, right? And if you follow kind of our screens, we kind of like did it directly off of the mock-up, the beautiful mock-up that the designer made. I wonder who is the designer here, but it was, I was following that. I loved it. So this is a splash screen. It looks kind of similar, and it scales based off how big your device is. But so my screen is kind of small, so this is kind of a small image. But and then so you get to the screen, it's just like everyone else's. You can get the current location, or you can type in an address. So we originally had like an autocomplete form on there, but it doesn't really work with like the line 2 in city, because what Google likes to do is have one line and it'll like finish it for you. So you can actually, in our app, we don't even like error check. You can like leave blanks and you can submit it, and we'll still use the autocomplete to get your whole address. So that kind of differentiates us as well. And so this is just kind of showing the loading screen. If you see it at the top of the, it's kind of hard to like show through screenshots, but and so once you pull up you get your GPS location, it'll pull up the jobs just like it was. Something that I think differentiates us as well is we actually did the timing for the different transit systems, and I'll show you later. You can flip switches to turn the walking on, or turn the biking on, or turn the bus and car on or off. And so these are actual times from Google that we're pulling for how long it would take to get to those spots. And so, let's see. Next screen I have on here is the search settings. So like I mentioned before, if you click this wrench up at the top right, it'll take you to the settings screen, and you can set your education level, your job type, and then, like I said, flip the different busing distances on and off. The travel time as well is on there. So let's see. I think that was that's the same one. Yeah. So when you click on a job, you can save it to your favorites. I think we did the same picture there, but so it'll give you the description. You can see it if you download the app. When you click on the actual thing, it'll bring up the big view where you can see the description, the street address, all that kind of stuff. And you can click a star at the top, and it'll add to your favorites list, and it'll appear here when it loads it in. Here's the description. So if you clicked on Marketing Manager, for instance, it brings you to this. You can click on that star on the right, and it'll put it in your favorites list, that sort of thing. So. You can scroll down to the bottom of it and apply for more info. It'll link you to the link that they sent us through the API as well. You get the salary and the job type on there just like it was in the mock-ups. And this is just kind of showing it takes you to the website. So that's pretty much the gist of it. You have anything else, Hal?
No.
Hal is wonderful. She did all the icons and stuff for it. So.
Did you go through events? Did I miss it?
So we don't have events on here, no. So.
Cool.
Good job. All right. Judges, 5 minutes for questions. They're passing around phones up here, by the way, that have the devices on it for people in the back who can't see.
And you'll note the loading time is from the API, so whoever called the API guy out before.
So Xamarin Forms, and you said it's already in the Android App Store, and obviously you could submit to the iTunes, or to the App Store for.
Yeah, so if you see the iOS right now, there's like text colors and images that are missing, so we go in and fix those, and you can submit it to them. And I mean, that's a huge differentiator too, right? Is you can't submit web apps to the iOS store anymore. So if you try to, I'll also tell you no. I know this from experience because I actually just launched a music app in the summer, and Paige knows this. They wanted to be on iOS, but they wouldn't let me put it on iOS because it was a web app. So if you want to be on the iOS store, it has to be a native app from now on. So they have that progressive app they're talking about, but you have to download that from a website to actually be able to access that. So.
Isn't there a fee for being able to build though?
Yeah, it's like $100.
Every year though?
Right.
So there would be no cost to any of this?
Right. So they're running an API, and they would probably have some costs, but our app is free. That's why we're able to post it on production right now. So it's pretty cool.
Did you have notifications about new jobs or new listings as they came in?
No, so like that would be a server as well. I was hoping that could probably be integrated with their API as well. They could have the webhook themselves and shoot it out to us. So.
Sorry if this was asked, but I'm not familiar with Xamarin Forms. Does it just spit out an iOS app straight up too, or?
So you actually have to have a Mac to build on. So like you build everything in Visual Studio, usually on a Windows device, and then you want to build the Mac application, you send it to your Mac, and you can build it, and then you can deploy it. So.
But it's still just like a.
Yeah, it's an IPA file, just like. Yeah.
Yeah, it generates native code as opposed to trying to run within containers of native code, right?
Yeah, well, so actually what happens is the package size is a little bit bigger for Xamarin apps because there's a little bit of backend they do on it. So your memory size would be a little bit bigger. That would be the downfall there.
Judge, other questions? Great job.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. With that, we're going to give the judges a chance to head out and deliberate, and that way they can be doing that while we're working on things. Okay. So finish up your notes, and then Tim will lead you to the front office. And then while they're away, we're going to talk about the project a little bit more, and just any thoughts from everyone as a group before we forget all about the stuff we've been spending time on this whole weekend. It's just a great opportunity to hear what you might have in mind. I'm good. Nope. Okay. All right. You mind if I plug in? Perfect. No, that's great. Yeah, I can. Well, I'm more familiar with mine. Do you mind if I switch for a moment? I'll switch back to this, but I'm going to use my computer. Is that okay? Let me know when you're ready. I'll use that here in a little bit. I am almost ready. Give me just a sec. When I pull up the Hack for Good site, I'll be ready. All right. So first off, thank you so much to everybody who came out. Regardless of the outcome, I can assure you that the Workforce Development Center is just so excited to have everybody thinking on this project and on what they're trying to do, ways to connect the local job seekers with their jobs in a more efficient way. So I just wanted to be sure that everybody knew that the time you spend here thinking on projects and asking Sally and her team about different things really inspire them to come up with better ways to serve the job seekers in our area, and even lead to potential features that maybe weren't on the original roadmap. I mean, all of you at this point are probably pretty familiar with the Hack for Good website and where we're keeping all of this project information. I'm going to spend most of the time talking about the workforce development projects and those features that you either worked on or maybe things that weren't real clear when we were going through the documentation, that maybe now you'd like to point out clarifications on things that you either learned or weren't clear until after all of the demos came together, just so that we can make sure that we update those docs and continue to use those as living docs as this project continues on through our Hack Night events. So I'm pulling up the project details PDF. We're not going to read through it, the whole thing together, but I wanted to be able to use it as sort of a starting point and reference, since this is what everybody had to work through, so that we're all on the same page. I'm drilling down to the project requirements, and without necessarily going through here, I just really wanted to open it up to open discussion. Is there anything in the project requirements that either A, wasn't really clear to you, either at first or still isn't, B, isn't listed here, but that you suggest adding, or that through discussions with Sally and her team you felt like should have maybe been here? We tried to cover our bases, but when you work through something like this and try to define scope on a software project with people who haven't done a lot of software project work, you almost have to really read between the lines and figure out what it is that they're looking for. And so I know with all of the different conversations that you've had over the weekend, you might have come up with things that either we've never considered at all, or they've never considered at all, or just has never made it into paper. Any thoughts, anybody? Yeah, Amber.
I was thinking like a resources tab, because it mentions that like a lot of times they need babysitting or things like that, or if they can't make it to the job center, they have to go to them. So just knowing that resource is available. I know that ASIC was to try to solve some of those things, but I still think
Sure. Yeah, the suggestion was having what my understanding, a list of resources that potentially could even be published by address, to where, like the jobs and the events, maybe you'd be able to search and see the nearest resources if there are multiple child care options or things. Is that sort of what you're suggesting, or what would you envision?
I don't know, just different links to things in the area that would help solve those issues for them.
Okay.
Not necessarily our app, but just resources.
Okay, so maybe even just pointing them to a resources page that they might have on their website or somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other features like that maybe have come to mind over the weekend, or things that we tried to document and explain that weren't real clear? I'm glad to hear we were awesome. I highly doubt that's the case. Amber?
Sorry. They said that some of their people that use their resource maybe have some kind of disability, so keeping those features in mind, and then that way it can even change the device for the way that they view their things.
Okay, so
Sorry, my brain's gone.
no, but you're basically, are you suggesting making sure that the app is accessible and ADA compliant, or even going so far as to figure out which jobs might be more accommodating than others? I don't know if we have access to that data, but
Yeah, well, so for instance, like Arc of the Ozarks, they're now here in the E Factory. They have a list of employees that are trained to meet those standards. So if they work together and then we list that person's compliant with those things, then the people would know I don't have to get trained for this position. They're already ready and aware of it.
sure. Okay. No, that's very helpful. And we definitely did not touch on any of that. So very helpful feedback, because I can tell you right now, I know that wasn't addressed at all in terms of helping folks with disabilities.
Yeah, it was in their interviews, kind of.
Okay.
Talked about it, but we didn't do it.
Perfect. No, those are the kind of conversations I'd love to hear about. Jordan?
Well, so two things. The first one was something I kind of already chatted with you about, but I thought I would say it.
Sure. No, of course.
That for me, some of the fields, it wasn't clear if they were optional or not, and so I wasn't sure how to handle it on the front end. And with things that were optional, like, do we still want to display the job and just not those specific fields, etc.? So like some clarification on, like the more sad path.
Okay.
Pieces.
Sure.
And then the second thing is that if the features had been more weighted, I think that would have been helpful. Like obviously we want to get all of them done, but if there was some guidance on what was most important to implement, I think that would have been helpful.
You mean like the end of your job details packet where we have the...
Well, I didn't see that.
Oh no! Then that's a fail on our part for making it not clear and putting it at the very back. What? Okay, so were other people on the team aware of it at least?
Yeah.
Thanks, Hira.
Woo. No, I'm sorry about that though. It should have been further to the front. What basically happened there was we put it
under the features would have been helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Or just say see attached thing, because this was developed for the judges, and then we attached the judge information to the back of the packet so that people would be able to see it, but we definitely should have called it out. So yes. And to transition a little more to the API side of things, I know I've received a lot of great feedback in terms of features that we could potentially add to the back end to make the front end flow a lot better, and to even potentially eliminate the need for a separate back end. When we first moved into this and started talking about providing a back end, the original intention was purely to give you an easy way to access the current job and event data, so that you weren't having to go and download a file from somewhere, or heaven forbid try to parse the data from the existing website. Normally that's not that much of an issue. We do that at our company quite a bit, but even with this particular website, it's been a challenge. Our intent was to have live data this weekend. Honestly, I think that having the random data may have worked out better, just because you ended up with a lot more sample data than you would have otherwise. But that's just a byproduct of my personal frustration with that website integration. So that's coming, super close, but we got to the 11th hour, and like a lot of you, when you were working on things and you said, you know what, it's almost 10, almost 11, almost 12, we're gonna call it on this feature. That's where I was on Thursday, so I get it completely. But as far as specific features that have been discussed or possibly considered, certainly some teams mentioned being able to query individual records. Very easy to add. That way, if you're not storing all of the data locally, you could have somebody click on a record and then immediately pull up the data for that one record without, I'm assuming, downloading the whole list again and having to wait for that payload to arrive. Because when you're downloading thousands of records, obviously it takes thousands of times longer than downloading one record. So even though you're talking a fraction of a second, if it's 10 milliseconds, 1,000 times longer could be 10 seconds. I mean, that's a big difference. So as far as specific features, some of the things that I was hoping my little notes app would have pulled up here were the ability to filter on the API side. I'd even talked later in the day yesterday with at least one team about the possibility to request, well, I guess this is essentially a fancier filter, but to provide an address and request all jobs within a specific radius, sorted closest to furthest. So you could potentially have a scroll feature where they're already sorted, and then instead of what a lot of teams may have been doing is if you download the 1,000 jobs and you're comparing the distance from each job to the job seeker, you're probably comparing that distance in walking time or biking time or busing time or driving time, or all four. Let's say you download 1,000 jobs and you're querying all four. Google's going to treat that as 4 queries per job or 4,000 queries, and just in that one time you racked up $20 in API calls, most likely. Not good. Whereas the train of thought was, if we're able to provide you with some limited amount of jobs instead of the whole list, and they're sorted by distance, maybe you only go through the first 5 or 10 or 20, because most likely those are going to be the closest ones. And what that implementation looks like is still a little fuzzy. I mean, I can certainly provide what I just described, but interested in your ideas of how that might work in your different applications, or just for everybody's benefit, because I foresee a lot of you might have an opportunity to help out and keep this project moving through our ongoing Hack Night program. Just for everybody's benefit, it'd be good to hear any ideas you might have in terms of taking that data, if it is filtered, and presenting it. Any feedback or ideas or suggestions there, Frank?
I know that Google Maps is pushed a lot, but I think that there might be cheaper alternatives. The cities, their own official route shout app.
Right. The Route Shout app shows real-time bus data.
So you can use the API for that along with OpenStreetMaps and have entirely free maps.
Got it. And do you know if OpenStreetMaps provides walking travel time versus biking versus driving versus bus? Because that was one of the reasons we went toward Google.
I know they have different routing things attached that have that stuff, but I don't know that much about it.
Does anybody happen to know? Is anybody familiar with the Open Maps API? It's something we can certainly look into, but if we had somebody that was already working with it and said, yeah, definitely that's an option, or I know that that's not an option, we would know which side of the list to put it on. So some background on the Maps API recommendation. This project was recommended to, Workforce Development applied to Hack for Good last year. And we encouraged them to apply again this year, because last year we turned down the application because of some issues with the bus data. They knew that a lot of their folks that they're targeting would potentially use public transit, and so it was important in their mind to be able to get good figures in terms of, if I'm moving from point A to point B, which bus route or routes will I take, and how long realistically is it going to take to get there, between waiting for a bus, getting to a transfer point, waiting for the next bus, and so on and so forth, so that if you have 2 jobs and one happens to be a 20-minute commute by bus, but the other one isn't either isn't serviceable by bus, or because of where you're at might end up being an hour travel by bus and doesn't meet their criteria of keeping that commute under 30 or 60 minutes, that was just really important to us. And so what led us to the Google Maps API, and the reason I bring that up is there wasn't a real clear way to get that data last year. We were aware of the API that you mentioned with the live bus data, and we were also aware that at least at that time, Google had shown transit data in the past, but due to some transition at the city, the weeks prior to our decision, Google Maps did not show transit data, and the city ensured us that they were going to begin populating Google Maps with transit data again within weeks. But it's pretty hard to hinge everything on whether or not that data is available. We suggested possibly using the Route Shout API or whatever that was called, but they said that that's only renewed on a year-by-year basis, and their long-term plan is to work with Google. They said they're looking at supporting other Maps APIs, and so without them specifically saying it, I would assume that they're working on ways to handle transit in Apple Maps and some of the other big players, and Open Maps and things if they have those features. But at this point, that's not available. And with knowing that Route Shout could be gone next year, we're interested in developing something that that isn't going to take a lot of volunteer time to keep up, to where if we develop it in Route Shout this year and then in 9 months it stops working because they switch contracts, that doesn't do anybody any good. So that's how we ended up there with the Google Maps thing. Yes. Yes. Okay, so it has, in addition to the car that you'd come to expect on all of them, it does have bike and routing, but not necessarily public transit in Springfield? Yeah, no. Okay. So that's something that we'll ping them on and encourage them to add, because it would be good to have some options there. But as it stands right now, their recommendation was to use Google Maps API. And we confirmed that before we asked the workforce development to put in another application, because they had a very strong application last year, but there were a couple issues with data availability and including the public transit that they felt was very important for their app to meet their job seekers' needs, to where we ultimately didn't feel comfortable taking it on last year, and all of those had been addressed since then. Other questions or comments related to the project? I've got a couple other API comments, but I'd like to hear from you all first. Yeah, Chris.
So since it sounds like you were having some difficulty getting an API set up, next year should there be like a volunteer sign up to help get the resources ready? Would that help?
Yes, I think so. The question was whether or not there'd be an opportunity for volunteers to help with setting up an API in advance, or any of the resources that need to be set up. We do accept volunteer signups before the event. We've always walked a fine line of making sure that people who are signed up as volunteers, either at the event or prior to the event, aren't on teams. So we would want to make sure that if we build something out like that ahead of time, we go one of two routes. We would either ask those volunteers not be on teams, or we would work on it far enough out that we would publish all of those specs. So even if you're on the team or you're not on the team, you'd have access to the same info and you'd be able to explore what's been worked on, and you theoretically wouldn't have access to insight that maybe would give your team an advantage over the weekend. Because we definitely want Hack for Good to be something that you can come out and work on over the weekend without feeling obligated to put it. We don't want it to be called Hack for Good weekends. We don't want you to feel like if you don't spend weekends and weekends and weekends leading up to the event, your team isn't going to do well. We want everybody to be on a pretty level playing field. So I'm all about that. I'd love to add a section to our volunteer sign up where it's helping build out resources, and we'll definitely talk about that more and see how we can make sure we ride that fine line and keep it fair for everybody without having other people think, well, now that we've got team members working on these resources ahead of time, I really ought to be either working on those resources or spending a lot of time with them to make sure I'm up to speed on things. I see our judges are back, so here we're going to wrap up here shortly and do prizes and awards. But before we do that, any other feedback or comments or anything that you'd like to share thought-wise? Yeah, Chris.
So with this being an API format, could that have, given more time, more people, and put it to a database? And would that have been better?
Yeah, I think Chris is asking the group as a whole. What would your opinion be on us publishing resources ahead of time? I mean, keeping in mind that our hope is that you're not feeling obligated to spend. Yeah, Chris?
More like, would it have been better if the data was in a database format versus an API?
Oh.
If that was possible.
Okay. So yeah, let's do a poll of everybody. First off, did anybody find the API unhelpful? Like, did anybody not use the API? That's a loaded question. I'm going for people, because otherwise, if I ask who used the API, you're gonna have people that just don't raise their hands. So, but how many people here I'm gonna go with against the grain anyway. How many people here would have preferred the data be available in other formats? Okay, I do see a few hands. Of those, what other format ideas do you have for us? I mean, something that's ready to load into a MySQL database, or what do you have in mind that might be easier to work with?
Yeah, I would think definitely having like some sort of SQL database would be really helpful.
Okay.
Because to everyone's point here, it is very costly to hit Google's API. And if you can do address lookup or any sort of data lookup without having to hit an API, not only do you get performance boost, but you also reduce costs on that. The only challenge with that is actually embedding this database into your project, but there are sources out there that allow you to do that. I know Facebook has an embedded database that you can use. It does take up space, so getting information into it would be a bit of a challenge for app developers, but I definitely think having a database of some sorts to embed in an application would be very helpful for searching, filtering, querying without having to hit any APIs and bring up costs.
Perfect.
Plus there's an offline benefit to it as well.
Absolutely. No, and so you're envisioning a on-device database essentially that the data could be pulled into. Yeah, and with that being said, one of the things that Fred mentioned was trying to help keep your other API costs down. So along those lines, I know it was a little 11th hour as far as us adding geo information to all of the addresses. That suggestion came up early on, and I could see immediately how that would be beneficial. So I started working on it Friday night, but I didn't quite have it ready until lunchtime Saturday. But along those lines, what else do you feel could be potentially added to the back end? If I mean, now that we're already through the project and we didn't have the opportunity to have a database per se ready to go, but on the back end, what could we have done maybe to help keep those costs down, or to make your apps a little bit more performant without using a back end? Levi?
Having optional pagination against the API.
Yes.
500 records at a time definitely would have helped.
Okay.
Not having their own back end.
Sure.
I
I'm taking notes as we go. I'm not just chatting with my buddy. I'm like, well, it's Levi. You getting this, David? No.
I imagine still having the option to download it in bulk is helpful in certain scenarios.
Sure, of
So
course.
Both options would probably
Okay.
be preferable.
Got it.
Oh yeah, bulk API is a good call.
Yeah, don't eliminate the bulk API, but have both options. Sure. Other things that that we kicked around were the possibility of running all of the Maps API calls through the back end, so that you can make those calls, but the back end would have an opportunity to cache them. I know that you're gonna have to bleep this part out. I know that you're probably persuaded to not cache or infinitely cache a lot of API results, but at least when in my mind, when a user set is in a session and it's the same user, same address, and they're popping around, I'd be hard pressed to agree not to cache anything at all. I'd think it'd be perfectly reasonable to cache for 5, 10, 20 minutes, maybe even longer, to where that user experience doesn't require, if they go to the same homepage, to make the same API calls over and over. Any thoughts or comments along those lines? I mean, if not, we anything else in general that yeah, Amber.
As like a marketing standpoint, if we found similar apps that already solved the solution and saw what technology stacks they were using, like for instance, there's an app called hotpads.com and it looks for rentals in the area, and a lot of the implementation is the same as what we've just done. So figuring out what they did and how they solved things could help our local class.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. We sure. No, that's a great suggestion. Looking for similar things and figuring out what they use tech-wise, so we can make recommendations in line with what's been successful for them. Fred?
Sorry, I'm going to jump back to cache a little bit.
Yes, please.
But for your end, you could have the data caching on your end too. So
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's say instead of hitting Google Maps API to run your calculations for transit, you basically send that type of query to the Jobs API, and then it can go out to Google and make those queries and then sort of manage those results locally or cache those results locally in such a way that from point A to point B, I'm assuming it's going to be about the same travel time today versus tomorrow. But a month from now, it might be different if traffic situations have changed. So you don't want to cache it indefinitely, but if you have somebody visiting and running the same queries day after day, you could cut down your cost and speed up your responses. Amber?
Sorry, expanding out from here, like if this were to go like throughout the U.S., travel times from one distance to the next could change based on your geographical location because of like the hour changes, like we're Central Time versus Eastern Time. So maybe from point A to point B, the time changes during that time they didn't know.
Sure.
Not in this area.
Time zones and such. And no, to be realistic, what we're working on here would be at best a statewide deal, because we could potentially pull all of the statewide resources, at least in the current partnership. If everything goes well, they might be interested in expanding that. But to your point, if it were used by other groups outside of the state, they would want to be aware of the need to make those implementations. I mean, there's potential that other groups like Code for America might be interested in picking up this, since it's an open source project that anybody could potentially load their own data into and use in other job markets. So I'm mentioning this in case they're watching this video in the next year or two. And I know Jace had a question. Well, let's take just a couple more and get on to awards, because I know it's 2:30 and we promised to try to get you out of here at 2 or so.
Is this API going to be used for the actual app?
I would assume so. My intention is to continue to expand the Jobs API so that it is more performant and as just a long-term solution for whichever project we choose, or whatever combination of tech that we end up with if we are merging different pieces of different solutions. But yeah, so that's why I'm asking about it. If it was a one and done and we weren't going to use it after this weekend, I definitely wouldn't be wasting your time asking these questions, because I'm very, very excited about being able to help keep the back end going. We do that kind of stuff on a regular basis, and so I feel like that's sort of an area that I can give back in. One more, Frank?
It might be helpful to standardize data types. I noticed when I was digging through that time was like
Yes.
formats.
I'm jotting that down because I think I have that note somewhere, but somebody else did point that out. What Frank mentioned was, as far as standardizing data types, we have data that is in a couple different formats related to timing, and all of that should be the same. And I saw that halfway through, and in the spirit of not making breaking changes, I decided to leave it as is, but I completely agree with you that that's something that should be fixed and could be fixed very quickly. With that, unless there's any other pressing comments that anybody wants to share, I hear that there is a question from the audience.
If you already covered it.
No, we did not. The question, the anonymous question from the audience had to do with whether or not we covered wireframes. And so, all joking aside, Tim, thank you for the time that you spent putting together some wireframes. With that, we'll switch over to prizes, because he didn't really want feedback; he just wanted the glory. No, I'm assuming most of you were here when we kicked things off and saw this. It's failing to zoom for me. Here we go. That's good enough. But feedback on providing wireframes. How did that work out for you? Was it helpful? Is there something that you would like to see different or in addition to what Tim was able to put together, so we can add to a checklist? Jordan?
I thought it was incredibly helpful.
Awesome.
If you wanted to go a little bit further, I don't know why you didn't share like the whatever you made it in, the wireframes, but that's how I'm used to developing like iOS apps, is having those mocks where I can see like the margins and the font use and stuff, and maybe you just wanted people to kind of wing that, but if you wanted to go further.
Context of that, and that's something that we should decide as a group. Is that something people would think would be helpful? I didn't want to give anybody an advantage if they knew about the tool I happen to use to then be able to, because I wasn't publishing it as an actual style guide with detailed details, etc. I also was trying to make it so that it was generic enough that you take your own approach, and maybe it's just a layout and stuff, but not necessarily to use the exact colors and the exact styles and everything. I know several of them were very similar, and that's fine, but so the thought process behind not giving the original design files was so that we wouldn't be building the exact same thing, because there'd be more to it. But regardless,
Sure.
all of the solutions we could continue to style and make different or whatnot. So if it would be helpful and if people want to have the original files for next time, then I'm
Or I think
totally open to that.
like calling that out, just that it's kind of like a reference point, and then you should build on that.
Yes, I can reiterate that. I mentioned it in the
Well,
beginning.
yes, apparently I forgot everything.
Man.
But I'll make sure that's very clear though for
Yeah.
each one too. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, to recap all of that in case you couldn't catch it, basically the question was, why didn't we provide InVision or Sketch or Adobe XD type files that can be used to wireframe an app like this? And Tim's concern was he didn't want any of you to feel like that was the design, like it had to be that way. That's meant to be an inspiration, so that if you're if let's say, could go a couple different ways. Even if you're an experienced app designer, you're not having to think through all of the different scenes. Just right away, you can get a feel for the landscape. And if that's an area that's new to you, you have a place to start without having to basically spend your whole weekend going, well, okay, after I open the app, what should it do? I'll probably ask for the address. I mean, you wouldn't want. We were trying to make the best use of your time without, to your point, giving teams maybe an unfair advantage if they happen to know those tools versus not. Are there any teams here who have never used a wireframe tool like Adobe XD or InVision or Sketch? Okay, I see a couple. For the most part, that's covered though. So I would have expected way more hands to go up. I don't know what your expectation was. There are certainly a few in the room that haven't worked with those tools, but my gut would have said more like 50-50. So I'm excited to know that would be a useful tool, as long as everybody understands to build off of that and not necessarily export it, implement it, and say, here we go, because we don't want to block the creativity that can come out of your teams in terms of better approaches, more innovative approaches, just overall better design than we might have come up with as just small group planning, because there are a lot of very intelligent and creative people in here, and we don't want to hinder that. Is that a pretty fair recap?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. No, great question. With that, I think we should transition over to get people out of here. We're going to, I know somebody asked me how many people, so I already had a volunteer. Beck?
Yep.
Thank you. It depends on the prize. And I'm going to end with the prize from Self, which is already here. I was queuing Charlie in case he was like, oh crap, the prize is in my car.
That was the thing I had to go grab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Let me switch back to. I'm going to go back to my slide deck and hopefully not have some crazy amount of. Oh, yeah, it's super small. Nobody can read it anyway. This is great. That's what happens when I'm zoomed for the mock-ups. Let's see. Good slides.
Jason had debated a lot about whether to provide it or not. Left it out.
Oh, it's, you know what? It's the wrong thing. Trust me, once I'm to where I need to go, I will zoom. Let's see. Where are the slides, Tim? I just don't want to miss.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Because as we do prizes, we'd like to have you come up and have somebody take photos, Tim, since you're in a prime photo taking location. Hopefully we can have you help out with that. All right, so we made it through judges' deliberation. Woo, thank you, judges. We're gonna go through the prizes first, and then we're gonna do the awards. So with that, to answer your question we have a long list of people here. We have 37 people. Nope, 36 people, because I don't think the header can win a prize. Yeah, that's how it goes. But we're gonna draw for all but the VR prizes first, and then everybody's name is going to go back into the VR drawing if they've logged 15 or more hours, like we talked about in the opening session, which is almost all of you. And thank you so much for all of the time that you put into these projects, and that includes whether you were on the workforce teams or Isabel's teams. We're not saying that this is one or the other. It's everybody. So with that, I'll just quickly recap some of the donations we have here. We have a couple cases of NOS energy drinks, and if you, what I'm going to do is we're going to call, and you're going to have the option to take a case or pick an Amazon Echo Dot with a smart plug. And so after the cases are gone, we will, you can win a case, and then you can win again, possibly. So just because you won a case doesn't mean that you can't win anything else, because we're wanting to give the option. We don't want somebody to win the case and be like, I have to carry this home. But I know there are some people here that might be pretty jazzed about that, or might have some friends they can share looks like 100 million pack with, because there's a lot there. And so we're going to do that with the Echo Dots first, and the energy drinks, and then after that we've got some other giveaway items. Actually, you know what? Since these other items are smaller, anything on the table is fair game. And then we've got some Xbox things that'll go after that, Xbox gift cards, and then we've got apparently something that Tim just thought of, and then we'll do the grand finale with Charlie's VR headset, which is quite the donation. So thank you so much, Giselle, for providing that. With that, woo!
Okay, so I've got the ability to do 2 through 37 as well, so we don't have to do math.
Oh wow! Look at you. I was just gonna make it 1 through 36 like that. So whatever works good for you. All right, just when we're taking pictures, if Tim comes back, somebody want to cover for Tim?
Yeah, I got it.
All right, somebody's got it. Let's see who the first prize winner is. I see him coming back. Oh, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and not wait for him. Who do we have? 12 is Dmitry Shabura. Woo! Nice. So Dmitry, come up and pick either a case of NOS or
got pictures?
Any of these. These are all paired up. And these, if you don't want a smart plug but you get an Echo Dot, this is a pair of buttons for like buzzing in on Amazon games. Okay, perfect. We already have somebody taking the NOS. Yeah. Come on up here. Yeah? Yep, just hold it right up here in front of the Hack for Good deal. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Beck, who's next? 22. Joey Brosham. Woo! Come on up. What do you think? Going for the NOS? All right. Well, we have different colors, and you can either pick with the smart plug or with the buzzing stuff. Sweet. All right, enjoy. Do you want me in it? No.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks. Awesome. All right. Let's roll again. 1 to 36. 30 is Mike Copanos. Yeah. I almost messed it up like Copanos. Like I used to. It is. I know. Copanos. Turn the bag around. Turn the bag around. Here it is. Gotta get that. Nice.
Thanks, guys.
No problem, man. Awesome. Okay, let's roll again.
Okay, so we have
And you
one-
can't win twice unless you took the Nas. So just keep that in mind. You could win again, man.
Okay, so we already have one.
1 to 36.
And
We'll figure it out. We'll self-govern.
Okay.
All you have to do is spin.
23.
23. Jordan McAdoo. Woo! All right. And there's geek. There's geek shot glasses, and there's an SD card.
I really need that.
Shots.
It's for, the
Could have done
crafts.
shots of Nas.
That's right.
Yeah, also really good when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Woo! Cool. All right. Who's next? The magic number 2. Amber Donaldson. Woo! What are you thinking?
I don't own
Or do you have to see what's in the bag
listening
first?
Devices in my home.
Nos, get the Nos.
Or the king. Let's shut that.
Ah, going to the dark side. There you go. Cool. Awesome. Woo! All right. Getting down to the last few. 30.
That was me.
Mike. Yep, reroll. See? Reroll. 5. Ben Pomerenke. Oh, must be present to win. Next. Carmen Creswell.
Hey.
Oh yeah. Woo! Awesome. Oh.
Switch the slides.
Woo.
Thank you.
Yay!
28.
Matt Bowie. Woo! Yeah. Nos. Awesome.
Ooh, SD card.
SD.
Photographer.
Woo! I was gonna see how long. Thomas Reese.
All right, Thomas.
Yeah. Woo! Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Woo! All right, we've got 5 more items. 11. Daniel Shabura. Woo! That's the one with the buttons. There's 2 in there, so if you're playing a game where you have to buzz first, they'll light up. And the other one has a smart outlet. You take the pair, you take the buttons with the Echo Dot, or you take the outlet with the Echo Dot if you choose one of them. You want to do that? All right, come get a photo.
You did
Awesome! Woo! All right. 27. Mark Koffenberger. Come on up. Yeah. Tim, what's in the Gravitate bag, or is it a surprise?
A Gravitate coffee mug and a pen and a stylus and some candy and some other just
Nice.
Gravitate stuff.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
All right, the last Echo Dot.
All right.
Cool. Woo! got a couple more items.
Got 28 again. Did you get a nod?
Matt, Bowie, did you get a Nas?
Should have.
That should have got a Nas. You'd be up again. 11. Daniel Shabura?
No.
No, didn't get a Nas.
Come on, Ben.
No, that's Ben.
Ben's not here.
One again. Did one get a nod?
Aaron Merrick, did you get a Nas?
Hey.
Oh, you didn't get a Nas.
Yeah, inappropriate if I grabbed one of those.
Oh, yeah, good thinking.
There you go. Yeah, background.
Oh, thank you. Slacking over here. Awesome. All right, now I'm gonna. There's 2 shot glasses. I'm gonna put out these 2 Xbox cards. In your opinion, should people who've already won be able to get Xbox $50 gift cards? No, I'm seeing everybody say no. So you'll get to choose between shot glasses and gift cards. And if the gift cards go, I'm not going to make people keep drawing numbers. Because I can think of people that would use those shot glasses. So we're going to possibly have 2 to 4 winners.
Do we have the shot glasses with the cards?
Yeah, just do
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
Back 'em up.
See? I knew we had at least one smart person here.
Did Matt Bowie get nods?
Nope. What's the number? We can. 33. Thomas Reese.
He got nods.
You got Nas.
You got Nas. If you don't, hey Thomas, if you're not going to use it, we can redraw. But if you want it, you're totally welcome to it. Okay. If you don't play Xbox, yeah. Also valid on the Microsoft Store. Okay. 13, lucky 13. Doug McCullough, would you like an Xbox card?
He went home.
Nope, must be present. I'm going to start chopping people off the list here. 32. I'm not going to.
Reese.
Oh, should I have?
The numbers.
What? So
So we don't know who picked her.
well, I said
Good job.
Go get it, Seth.
it's Seth. It's Seth.
It's Seth.
Sorry, I should have messed with it. I should have touched
All right, move the screen now.
it. And yeah, come take a photo. One shot glass and.
Well, that's what I was gonna do, but someone told me shouldn't drink alone.
All right, thanks guys.
Awesome. Woo! I'm not going to mess with the list anymore. I apologize.
31.
Nick Schneider. Woo! Awesome. All right. And with that, we're going to switch over to a different list.
I need
Background.
background. All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Charlie, do you want to come up here? Where's your prize?
Oh my God, the prize is gone.
I stole it. Damn, Turkey.
I'll give it back.
Okay.
So
Am I just modeling it?
you're modeling
So
it.
hopefully some of you guys got a chance to try this thing out.
Tell us a little bit about what they're going to get, Vanna.
You're gonna get this. These.
In the box.
Yeah!
Woo! Perfect. Exactly what we need to know.
Yeah, so the Oculus Quest is a standalone headset, so you don't need a computer to run it on, and just pull it out of the box, turn it on, and you're good to go. And it comes with some gift cards because you got to buy games for it. Or you can sideload games for it for free. Side Quest, check it out, write that down if you want.
If they run into questions, can they reach you on Hack for Good Slack?
Yes, a number of places. Questions.
Yeah,
Slack, whatever. I mean, I'm places. I'm in the building. I'm over there. Also, since we're in applause mode, I want to quickly give a shout out to Jason and Tim here.
Jason. Just Jason.
No.
Jason, but also Tim for all the work that they put into this whole thing. It's been
Well, we had a lot of awesome people help out with this event. If you were one of the volunteers that helped out with the Hack for Good, can you raise your hand? in any shape or form outside of a team. Yeah, judges too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
That
guys.
not nearly everybody is here, but thank you to all of
Yeah, and also add me. There's like all, obviously Facebook owns this. There's a whole social aspect, so you can add me and we'll shoot stuff together or
you.
whatever.
Does it come with solitaire?
It does not come with solitaire, but you could make solitaire for it. Use Unity or Unreal.
Perfect.
Sideload Minesweeper.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Very cool. Well, with that, Beck, the range is different now, and everybody that's on this list is entered, whether you got Nas or not. So
They have to be here. They have to be here.
you have to be here. Thank you for clarifying that. Everybody on this list that can come and get it right now.
Should we take Ben out or should we leave him in?
We should leave him in just to say that you could have got.
He would have won. Good point. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No,
We
we're
just
going to
save
leave
him
the
for
list
later.
as is, and then when it hits his number,
Yeah. he'll feel
we'll
bad.
say, should have been here.
Yeah, nice. We love shitting people.
1 to 31.
8.
Christopher Bannock.
Perfect, yeah. At the first night here, he was like, yeah, I really want to try that thing out. And then we did demos and he didn't come by. So we're like, hey, he won. He won.
It was like twinsies. It's so cute.
Oh, yeah, we look great. This is wonderful. I always called long hair. Oh, well.
All right. Ready? Yeah.
Woo! Woo! Now we have one other drawing, and everyone is available for this as well. JetBrains is one of our sponsors. They donate every year. They donate some licenses for people to cash in and use if they're interested in trying out the products that a lot of us in Springfield devs use day to day for work or even on the side for projects. So a big shout out to them for supporting Springfield devs and Hack for Good and a lot of the other tech groups. I'm pretty sure that they've donated to .NET user group as well. But they gave us 4 licenses to raffle off, and everybody qualifies for those as well. But the catch is they only give them to us because people redeem them. So if you already have JetBrains and don't plan to redeem the license within 30 to 60 days, or you don't really have a use for JetBrains because you've moved over to the dark side and use VS Code exclusively, totally fine. Just do a pass and we'll redraw. This time when we do that though, before you draw, I am going to keep taking names out so we don't have somebody have to say pass once or twice if they really do use it, because I've seen that a lot of people are using this software. It's things like PHP Storm, PyCharm. What are some of the
Sharper is one of the most common ones. There's also Sea Lion and what's the other?
Data Grip, Sea Lion.
Yeah.
There's also a Go one.
Rider as well, which is a .NET alternative to Visual Studio.
Sure, WebStorm, but my understanding is that these licenses can be redeemed for any one of their products.
Yes.
Even the larger one, I believe, but not. It's not open to the one where you get access to all of the products. You do have to pick a product. So with that being said, let's draw for 1, 2. Hold on, I'm going back to the full list. And I'm making sure it's everybody. Yes, it's everybody now. 1 to 36 again. And I'll just start dropping people off either if you claim a prize or if you pass.
You want a picture or no?
Yes, and we're going to do, let's do a picture of all 4. Like once you come up, just grab a seat, hang out until we've got all 4 of you.
Yes.
33.
33. Thomas Reese. Come on. Pass? Okay. Okay, hold on. It's gone. Now draw. 1. Aaron Merrick.
I already have it.
Perfect. Ready. 5. Caleb Whitlow.
I'll pass.
Okay, now it's 1 to 33 back.
If you're a student, you get free access to JetBrains while you're a student too.
The licensing is slightly different, but yes.
But yeah.
So for student licensing, you only get a license while you are a student, and then after that you're not supposed to use it. For this, you have longevity full license for that. You just only get updates for the first year, but after that you can use it forever. Commercial use and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the student license, you're not really supposed to use for commercial use, even if you're doing side projects for hire. So keep that in mind. If you're a student and already have this, but plan to do side work, go ahead and hop on it. One, Amber Donaldson.
You were saying?
Yeah, come on up, Amber. And we don't have the physical product because they always email them to us, but come on up and we'll take a picture of the 4 of you with the JetBrains logo here in just a second. Okay, 1 to 32. 15. Haley Hines. Is it Hines?
Yeah.
All right, come on up. 1 to 31.
25.
Michael Ford. Okay. 1 to 30.
1.
Austin Pierce.
Yeah.
All right. One to 29.
17.
Joey Brossum? Is that right? Come on up. Woo! All right, I'll have the 4 of you come on up in front of the screen so we can get a photo, and that will be our way of thanking JetBrains. Just come on up right in the middle here.
Pretend you're holding something.
Yes, covet it.
Perfect. I can see the logo and everything. Great.
Perfect. Awesome.
All right.
Okay, very cool. Woo! All right, and now we're ready. We did your prize, right?
Yes.
Self? I'm losing my mind here. Running on. Yes, yeah, awesome, Christopher. So we're ready for awards.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and you're going to pass. They're passing on awards. Well, what'd you say? I'm going to get them out while you're coming up here to introduce the 3rd place, and then 2nd place, and then 1st place. And so we've got a plaque for each team, and then we have a gift card for each team member. And I'm assuming that I communicated well to Kim, but there should be $75 gift cards for each 1st place team member, $50 gift cards for, she's nodding, I'm like, woof, I didn't screw it up, for each 2nd place team member, and $25 gift cards to Amazon, Amazon gift cards across the board for everybody, for the 3rd place. They're not like gift cards to something that you'd have to travel to St. Louis for, or something random that we gotta, on Groupon, so that'd be good. But with that being said, let me go to awards, and then I'll have Tim come on up, or Sally come on up, either one of you, while I lay out the plaques and things.
Yay!
Yeah, I just want to first and foremost thank everybody for your hard work and dedication this weekend. When my coworker and I, Carmen, left here Friday night, it was really impressive, and we were a little bit overwhelmed. I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, but the way your minds think, and you were already thinking and asking those questions, you have to know it was really, really impressive. So congratulations. And really, on behalf of the Job Center, the City of Springfield as a whole, this is a really important app, and you have to understand you are paving the way for somebody to have a better job, whether it's a new job, starting a career over, making it easier to reach those job seekers. So we appreciate all your hard work, and a job can change the course of somebody's life. So you're really impacting the entire community. We're one of 14 job centers or workforce boards in the area, in the state. There's 14 of us out there. So honestly, you have the opportunity to impact an entire so much. Really impressive. I don't know if you saw the KY3 news story last night, but you guys were on the news. It was a great story. So thank you so much again. Really, really impressive. Very overwhelming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I'm really excited that I get to do this. I wish we could give something to everyone, but
I know.
Jason.
And
I know.
and if your team had fewer than 5 people, we'd like to hold on to the extra cards to hopefully use as promo items if we have just a stickler of a feature request along the way, so we can do project bounties and things like that. So I'm just to make sure it isn't awkward if you go up here and you're like, why don't we get all 5? That's sort of our game plan, so that we can keep those and hopefully get some excitement around different features that maybe just need some extra encouragement. So, but if you have 5, great. You're welcome to all 5.
Okay. In third place, thank you so much, would be Team Medium Effort.
Here you go. You got one. So step on the side and grab your cards. Yep, and have each person grab a card, and we'll get have you get up in front of the screen, and we'll take a photo.
We appreciate it. I don't know if you guys knew, but Friday morning I was in the ER with a kidney stone, and I rolled up in here all like pain meds and everything. So we learned React this weekend.
Yeah.
Also learned how to react to her this weekend.
Go ahead and get right in front of the screen. I know
We're gonna
you're going to
step
step
towards
up a couple steps, and maybe Greg can take the photo.
Well,
if
it's just a
wants
matter
to get on.
of faces staring into the.
Take step forward.
Step forward a little bit. There you go.
Problem solved.
You are you hiding?
Come on.
I always got Here, hold the flag. Okay.
Aw.
Alright, great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Congrats. Awesome.
Thank you so much, and I hope you're feeling better.
Yes.
Never have when they're very painful. Just
I'm glad I got to sit and do nothing this
yeah, that's probably better for you. Okay, in second place, we have Team Arnold Pomers.
You have to be present, so Ben.
Oh, we can. So there's 2 of you?
We got
Come
Daniel.
on up. Come on up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's 3 of you?
They're all for me.
Okay, that's fine.
Is there any more here? Is Ben not going to come get his card?
I'll
give his card.
You had one more, didn't you?
There's a little more, he's right there.
Well, he was like a guest add-on.
That's okay. Have him come up.
You can roll up.
Come on. He logged a lot of hours.
He did.
Yeah. Alright. You're in it.
There you go.
We didn't win. Don't tell them.
There you go.
Don't tell anyone.
Go ahead and get right in front.
Well, his number kept coming up, so
Oh, yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, help me change that.
He
Get
did.
numbers up, Ben.
There you go.
Stand awkwardly.
Yeah, that's good.
That's right.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, finally, after this long weekend, all your hard work. In first place, thank you so much for all your work. Again, it's Team Lane. Now you can
Look at that
settle
swagger.
down and take a nap.
Awesome.
Thanks for giving us a chance to work on it.
Yeah.
It's
Step
just
step
around a little bit.
forward just a little bit. Yeah, so there we go.
Excellent. Excellent.
Step forward one more step. getting a lot of.
There we go. All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Speech.
All right.
Want to thank everybody out there.
Oh, you can use our app, by the way.
Oh yeah, we
portal-2-work.netlify.com. Try it, find bugs and stuff.
All right, we'll link to that so people can check it out when you get home if you want. So a couple more brief announcements before we let everybody go, and we're going to stick around for a little. I'm going to stick around for a little bit in case you want to chat about anything, the experience as a whole, areas that you think we could improve. All ears at this point, but a few ways to potentially stay involved. I don't know what happened to my notes, so I'm going to wing it. I think I had an Apple Notes fail here. So, yeah, I know, I'm hearing people say big surprise. But again, big thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. It's if you or ever see any of these folks out and about or have a chance to find ways to give back to any of them, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. I appreciate your support in the community, but all of these have been great supporters of Hack for Good this year and many of them in the past years. So again, just thank you to Greg with Classy Llama and the E-Factory, and then everybody else who's helped out financially or through partnerships, donating prizes or whatever else it was that people have helped out with. So in closing, ways to stay involved. I mentioned the Mid-America Technology Alliance, who helps sort of let us run the Hack for Good event under their canopy. Definitely look at their tech calendar and their event page and find out if there are other events happening in the area that you might want to get involved in, either to learn about new tech things or to connect with your peers and get to know other people. We'd love to have you come out to Hack Nights. We meet quarterly, so it's the third Thursday every 3 months. The next one is, I believe, January 16th, so we've got a little ways. We'd love to have you come out to the developer meetups. We meet on the first Wednesday of every month here at the E-Factory. So we've got a meeting this coming Wednesday. If you happen to, I don't think anybody did any work in Xamarin Forms. We did have one. So if you would like to find out how to do awesome Xamarin Forms things, that's one of the talks. But Springfield Devs host a dev night with 4 or 5 talks at that night, and you have to sort of pick and choose which one you're going to go to. But the point of all of that is there's meant to be a little something for everyone. If you know folks that are just getting into development, we have an entry-level track. If you have folks that are more on the web dev side, we've got something for that, or .NET, or if you're more interested in learning how to host your code on infrastructure like AWS or any other cloud infrastructure, we've got a track for that. So definitely check that out. It's free. You go out to meetup.com and search for Springfield Devs. We'll link to some of these things in the Slack so that you can get right to them. Springfield Devs are hosting a developer conference in March. You can go out to methodconf.com for that. I'll link to it as well. Definitely go out to the Springfield Dev site and the Method site and sign up for those emails because they're 2 separate lists, same group, but if you're interested in one or the other, we don't want to bombard you with emails you don't care about. And then finally, would love to have you save the date for Hack for Good next year. It's tentative, but most likely date is the weekend after Thanksgiving. After Christmas. When is it? After Halloween. Yes. Yeah. So Halloween is going to fall on a Saturday, and we thought that we ought not have people dress up for Hack for Good. So instead of having a big Halloween bash here, we're going to most likely host the weekend after. And I'll put those dates out in the Slack channel, but it's something like November 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever that Friday to Sunday is. I know that's pretty far out planning-wise, but we would love to see you out here again, either for our ongoing Hack Nights or in the dev community, or coming out here again next year for whatever projects we might be adopting then. But if you want to be involved in volunteering, certainly go out to the Hack for Good website now and hit the contact page, and there's a volunteer button up at the top, and we can keep you in the loop in how to help out with hack nights or building out resources or anything else that's going on between now and the next hack night or now and the next Hack for Good. So any final notes, Tim? Anything else that we ought to make sure we give shout out for?
Thanks again to everybody for participating
Yeah.
and for all the help everybody put in. It's been a
Yeah,
great event.
thank you so much. And woo! Well, I apologize that we ran so long. The good thing is we were planning to have everybody out of here after cleanup by 3, and I've heard that cleanup has already been taken care of by Bob and Maria and Kimberly and some others. So I think I'm going to stick around and do a last pass and just make sure that things are good, but we're set to head out. So thanks again to everybody. Woo! Thank you.